Recording in progress.
Good morning, members of the Portfolio Committee. Good morning, Minister, DG, and officials, also from FETSAS and GPV. I think Chairperson may just be having a few minutes trying to log in. If we'll just give it another minute or two, thank you.
Good morning, honorable members, and good morning to all the participants in the meeting. Good morning to the department as led by the minister and the DM and the DG. Good morning to the National Association of School Governing Bodies. Good morning to all the honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, our support team. A very warm welcome to our Portfolio Committee meeting today. I hope I'm audible, honorable members. Perhaps let me start by clarifying why we brought this item in our program a bit up. We had to actually look at our program. Today, we were supposed to be receiving presentations from both Umalusi and SAYS on their strategic plans and their budgets. However, given the fact that there is nothing that has changed on their strategic plans, their APPs, and their budgets, as a result, given the directive that we were given by the Office of the House Chair, that where departments have not effected any changes, there is no need for the portfolio committees to call them again to present the very same presentations they have done before. So as a result, we had to then look at the program, and then we just brought the programs or the items that we were supposed to engage on in the later weeks, and we just brought them up. And we've just included just one program, which is a program that I think Mr. Brown will share with the members on one program that we have then included, which is a program on the engagements of the Bella Act, the implementation of the Bella Act, where we will be inviting all provinces and the stakeholders that are involved in the implementation of the Act. That is the only item that we had to add. So with that, I thought I should just give that clarity so that members have the clarity. The second clarity is on the issue of the special oversight visit to Bergview College in Eastern Cape. We have since made the application and we are awaiting for the approval of that application. Mr. Brown, towards the end of the meeting, you will have to update the committee on how far the application is in terms of processing. Those are the two issues that I thought we should just really deal with before we start. Honorable members, we are now going to, on this meeting, engage on the functionality and the governance as it is done by school governing bodies. As we conducted our oversight visit in various schools, one of the concerns that has been an issue for this portfolio committee has been how the school governing bodies are capacitated by the department to be able to perform their oversight work in the schools, and also generally to run the governance of the schools. And where there were issues, where there were challenges in the school, it was always the common denominator always was also the capacity of the school governing body to actually discharge a function of governing the school alongside the SMT in the departments. And as a result, we thought it would be very important for us as a portfolio committee to really engage with the department on the functionality of SGBs as one of the most important instruments and one of the most important leadership role that actually ensures that our children receive a quality education. So we've also invited in this meeting, and I'm going to allow Mr. Brown to just take us through the attendance register and the apologies. We've invited beyond the department, we've also invited this Association of School Governing Bodies. We hope that they have joined the meeting because it wouldn't be fair for us to engage on this issue without them having a voice and also shedding light on some of the challenges that they face in ensuring that our SGBs function. One of the things that we would also want the department to reflect on is the situation in independent schools. Because I know the department runs SGB elections, and then that is monitored and overseen by the department. But maybe the department ought to shed light on what happens in independent schools, because we know there's many independent schools where there is no SGB. So the schools are either run by boards or they are run by something else. And in terms of our legal framework, the department would have to really guide on how then do you monitor and what kind of a role does parents play in these independent schools and how do they play that role, and is it mandatory for these schools to actually elect SGBs? And if it is mandatory, how are we monitoring it as the department? What is our role in that instance? So as part of your presentation, please also just shed light on that aspect as well. So, Mr. Brown, can we just fly to the agenda, but also can you just come in to deal with the attendance register and also apologies?
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you. Good morning, members. Good morning, Minister, Deputy Minister, and officials and others present, Chair. I have yourself, Honorable Maimela. I have Honorable Kabanchaba. I have Honorable Govana, Honorable Magagula, Honorable Lowe, Honorable Dr. Christians, Honorable Jordan, Honorable Ngadi, Honorable Gasa. I also have Honorable Shikbombana and Honorable Komane. I have one apology for Honorable Ngubeni, who, of course, is in another meeting currently. Chairperson, I do know that from the Minister's office, there was an indication that the Minister may have to leave us a bit earlier today, but I do know that she is in the meeting. And also just to highlight, Chair, that we do have representatives from the Governing Body Foundation. We have representatives from FETSAS, and we have representation from the NASGB, that's the National Association of School Governing Bodies, present in the meeting, Chair. We've received two presentations, one from GBF and one from FETSAS. NASGB indicated that they will not do a presentation, but they are available in the meeting. Thank you, Chairperson. I will flight the agenda now.
I'm sorry,
Thank you very much,
excuse me,
Mr.
Honorable
Brown.
Chairperson.
Honorable Ngobo, you are in
Yes,
the meeting.
yes, I just wanted to say so. I joined through the Samsung. Maybe it's not registering as such. My name
No,
as such.
it is registering now as Honorable
Okay.
Ngobo. So it's
Thank you
noted.
very much.
Let's mark Honorable Ngobo on the attendance register, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
Let's fly to the agenda, Mr. Brown. So we're going to firstly allow the department to present, and we're going to accord the department 15 minutes. We'll then allow the two associations to also make their presentations, those that have prepared a presentation for us. And then, of course, as per practice, we'll then go into discussions and questions and deliberations. We'll start with the department. Honorable Minister, you are welcome to the meeting. You can lead the team into the presentation of the department.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. And a very good morning to the members of the Portfolio Committee, also colleagues from the Department of Basic Education, some esteemed guests, and some of our stakeholders who are here this morning that we work with, and bodies of SGBs. Thank you for this opportunity to to address the committee this morning as we consider, I think, one of the most important pillars of democratic school governance in South Africa, the functionality of SGBs. Since the early days, I think, of our democracy, SGBs have been a very critical mechanism for fostering participation, accountability, local ownership in our public education system. And so that's why I think the South African Schools Act envisages that SGBs as custodians of school governance, working in partnerships with principals, educators, and parents to ensure that every school serves the best interests of its learners. So this presentation is aimed at providing the committee with a comprehensive overview of the functionality of SGBs across the country, particularly in light of the 2024 SGB elections. It will also outline the department's work in monitoring, training, and supporting governing bodies, and more importantly, the steps that we are taking to strengthen governance at a school level. Colleagues, I think while progress has been made, the recent SGB functionality survey reveals that we still have some significant challenges where it comes to SGBs and their functionality. These include, I think, amongst others, some misunderstanding about the powers and the limits of SGB bodies and SGB roles, instances of maladministration and perhaps conflict of interests, uneven participation of SGB members, gaps sometimes in training, especially in under-resourced communities, and of course the weak enforcement of policies such as financial management, discipline, and admission. So it's clear that this is not just only a question of just the technical abilities of SGBs, but also there are some cultural issues around SGB bodies that we must also tackle in making sure that they are effective. So, honorable members, I am also concerned about the results of SGB functionality survey. These results are a call for every provincial education department and its MEC of education to work with greater focus and urgency to address the gaps of the survey that as it identifies. And so I will be engaging on these issues with my provincial colleagues within the Council of Education Ministers as part of our ongoing efforts to improve the functionality of SGBs. The 2024 amendments to the South African Schools Act introduce important tools for support in this effort. They provide for enhanced powers for heads of departments, strict conflict of interest provisions, and strengthened requirements for consultation with parents, communities on critical school decisions. And so these reforms are intended to safeguard the integrity of school governance and ensure that SGB functions are accountable, transparent, and learner-centered. The amendments to the SA Schools Act, the Bella Act, have been in force and in effect since 2024, December 2024. And so it's important that they're implemented properly, consistently, and with immediate effect by every SGB. The DBE will continue supporting provinces to ensure that every public school in their respective province has functional SGBs and has the necessary policies in place that comply with the law. As the ministry, we also remain committed to ensuring that SGBs are not only properly constituted, but also they're empowered. And so we are grateful for the oversight and the partnership of this committee to be able to present this work. And so, Chairperson, with your permission, I will hand over to the team. I don't know if the Deputy Minister has anything to add over and above before we invite the team to present. Dr. Mhaule?
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, Minister. I think, Chair, the Minister has covered all what we could say. Otherwise, the Minister has spoken. Thank you.
Thank you, DM. Chairperson, with your permission, we shall hand over to the department to present. Thank you. DBE, can you please come in with the presentation? It was originally on the screen.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, and good morning to the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, and morning to the members of the Portfolio Committee, DM, the Director General, DDG, and members of the SGB Association. 15 minutes, it's a tall order. Chairperson, that's the presentation outline which you have, and we really would love to present this to you so that you note the progress that we've made and also provide guidance where it will be needed. I won't take you through the background. I think the Honorable Minister has covered that very, very well. So we'll just continue to indicate that there are erroneous reasons why people join or become members of the SGB. Some of them are the fact that people believe that they're going to have power to award tenders and control and take control over suppliers just for personal gains. We have realized that people will want to be SGB members because they'll be making purchases on behalf of the school and then control the school pairs. Some join in order to have control and influence over any contracts that the school signs. They believe they can influence the appointment of staff, especially those who are SGB paid, and dictate who must come into the school without even following due processes. Some believe that they'll have the right to run tuck shops, and some SGB members will join for political ambitions and the implementation of party political mandates. Some come because they expect that they'll get stipends and they'll be remunerated for the work that they do. And all these are wrong reasons to belong to SGBs. We also have other issues that we call misconceptions in governance. The main misconception is that parents are taken as the SGB. Whenever people refer to the SGB, they think we're talking to parents. So parents and SGBs are not synonymous. There's also a misconception that the chairperson of the governing body has veto power. He is in charge. He's a decision maker. Everything revolves around the chairperson, and this is not correct. Some are believing that it is the principal, in fact, who has the power because he's the CEO of the school. And if you have an SGB that is run by the chairperson alone as a dictator, you have problems. Same if you have a principal that is too powerful to control everybody, you have a problem again. We also have this misconception that learners cannot participate in decision-making processes. Now, it is a misconception. There's a misconception that school governing bodies have no say in professional matters, and sometimes SGBs are illiterate. Now, we want to prove what an SGB is and what it stands for. Those are the legislative mandates indicated 15 minutes. It's very legal for us to go through this, but we want to add what is in SASA, what is in the NDP, what does the NDP and SASA say about SGBs. We are expected as a department to take the interests of stakeholders and align them to support these community goals and the outcome of education. We are supposed to allow for a wide range of training providers, not only the department, but a wide range of training providers to support us in dealing with all education issues. And we're supposed to work with stakeholders and SGBs to disseminate information and the best practices and provide update, cutting-edge research in order to improve that. These are the principles that govern SGBs: your transparency, your responsiveness, your consistentness, your participatory governance, and inclusivity. So I was saying it is erroneous to think of a principal, to think of parents, to think of teachers in the SGB, because those components do not exist. They exist only for the purpose of elections, where parents elect parents, teachers elect teachers. But after the election, these different components come together as one, and they are called the SGB. The decisions and the operations of school governance are done by the collective and not individuals. Challenges that we have, it's either the principal is driving the SGB or the chairperson is driving the SGB, or some teachers are influencing the running of the SGB, or it's a combination of all those, which is incorrect. A big SGB has about 17 members, and it is the decision of the 17 members when they meet that counts in what the direction of the SGB needs to be taken, so that we don't have a T wing and a P wing and all this, but it is the collective that takes that. We want to take you through the roles of the principal. That comes from the NDP. And we also have this one that comes from the NDP. But in particular, I want to pick up things that focuses on the role of the principal in working with the SGB. One of them is that safekeeping of school records. Everything remains in a school and the principal is in charge of those records. And that the principal attends and participates in all meetings of the school governing body because he occupies that particular position. The governing body needs to receive report about professional management related matters of the public school. That is where I was saying it is wrong to say SGBs don't get involved in professional matters because they need to be given the report, engage with the report, and also assist in coming up with intervention programs around it. The only thing that they don't do is getting into class and confront teachers on whatever matter. But they have to work with that. Even when schools do plans, they plan with SGBs. The chairperson signs those plans, whether it's improvement plan, whether it's school evaluation and all that. So those are professional matters. Discipline, the principal helps the SGB. The principal is supposed to take all reasonable steps to prevent any financial maladministration or mismanagement. The principal is expected to report any maladministration and mismanagement. So the principal becomes the eyes and ears of the department when it comes to financial issues because these belong to the SGB. But the decision on using financial matters in a school lies with the SGB. And I'll emphasize the SGB is the entire SGB as a collective that takes those decisions. And if they take a wrong decision, the principal needs to stand up and even guide the SGB and even report if there are issues that are not correct. We have said that in the NDP that we need to provide necessary information. These are what the law says, the legal framework of SGBs, their roles and responsibilities that you find in Section 20 of SASSA, the best one being to promote the best interests of the school. Whichever decision they take must be looking into the interests of learners. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but they're important. The adoption of a code of conduct is an SGB functionality. The development of policies is the responsibility of the SGB. The administration and the control of school property, buildings, and all that. And you'll remember, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, you had to drive to Northwest in a school far away, only to realize that some of the challenges were because the SGB was not informed properly on their roles in dealing with school property and maintenance of a school. So those are the functions of the SGB. But how does the training of the SGB take place? This is the question that, Chairperson, you have asked us to respond to. This comes from Section 19 of SASSA, which says out of the funds appropriated for this purpose by the provincial legislature, the head of department must establish a program to provide introductory training. That is the induction after they're elected. And after that, provide continuous training for the entire 3-year term of office that they are there as SGB. So it means this is a provincial competency where the funds and the training happens at the provincial level. The head of department must make sure that the principal and other officers of the education department render this necessary assistance. So it's adding, who then trains SGBs? It is the officials under the guidance of the head of department. It is the school principal has been given that responsibility to make sure that SGBs are up to their function. The head of department may request a recognized governing body associations like the ones that we've invited. So training is provided by official principals Association, and also NGOs, because we said we need to make this bigger. Now, what the national department does, I need to emphasize this, Chairperson, when I say the national department, it means the DBE, provincial departments, SGB associations that you've invited, and others that are on the line here, together come up with a capacity building program. So there is a capacity building program that the minister has approved. It's a document that we have shared with members of the portfolio committee. It contains all topics that SGBs must be taken through in the entire 3 years of their term of office. It's very comprehensive. So it can be used as a tick box that you have done this topic and the next one and the next one. So we wouldn't go through that, but you have it in your disposal. This is just an example, honorable members, an example that will tell you that on a particular topic like induction, these are the number of schools that have been covered by a province. This doesn't include those that are dealt by the principal and those that are dealt by organizations such as the NECT and also the school governing body associations. But we conduct this province by province because it's their competency. They will indicate the topics that they have been dealing with the intention to cover as many topics as possible in the functionality tool that we have given them. So this is the expectation, honorable members, when we deal with SGBs. How do we want them to function? If we say the SGB is dysfunctional or is not following procedure, this is the procedures that we talk about, that they must establish a committee. And a committee will then run with the consultation processes. Like if they want to paint a school, there will be a committee responsible for maintenance, which will consult the rest, including the staff members, take this information to an SGB meeting for approval. And that approval must be coming from the entire SGB members of the portfolio committee. Then they'll follow processes of seeking for quotations and quotations that getting approved. Then the implementation takes place. So it is this what you're looking at, which causes a lot of problems, where decisions are not following this structure, where decisions are not done by everybody in the meeting, but few individuals take decisions on behalf of everybody. Want to come to a functionality tool? We have given you a template of a functionality tool. What we were doing together with SGB associations and provinces, we designed this tool in order to assist governing bodies themselves to collect data that will inform the fulfilling of their roles and responsibilities. They can check how well they are performing. It's a self-assessment tool for SGBs. At the same time, it's a tool that is used by districts and circuit managers to check the level at which their SGBs are operating. It also indicates training needs for SGBs and evaluates the impact of the SGB. So you have that tool, and we're providing a report after we've analyzed the performance of SGBs and saying, according to those roles and responsibilities that I've given, how are they performing in terms of developing a constitution, developing a code of conduct, developing policies like admission, so these are the figures that some of them are as low as 69% effective as far as that is concerned. Some at 80 and all that. So we go on with all the elements that are in our checklist to check how they are performing. You look at how the finance committees are operating, we're standing at about 75. When you look at how they maintain their school buildings, we're standing at 64. And that is why our infrastructure team has developed guidelines on how SGBs must maintain school properties, and those trainings are going on and on. So these are the findings that we'll be getting. On a national level, if you take all the topics where we expect SGBs to perform on, this is how we are performing. And you realize school property and building is still the lowest. School safety is very low on the right-hand side. And we probably are doing a little bit better when you look at the correct constitution of SGBs, which is around 95. So which means we're not completely perfect, as the minister has indicated. There are still gaps. Here we're just giving you province by province how functional they are when we use that tool. And that's how it looks like, differing from province to province. The minister touched on these general findings, that there are challenges. Whilst they are improving, there is inconsistent training, limited understanding of legislation, hence we talk about misconception, poor communication between schools and governing bodies. Furthermore, in rural areas, you still find under-resourced SGBs unable to travel to meetings due to lack of transport and funding for that. And the attendance of meetings is still found to be very weak. And the ability to develop some of these policies is also a challenge. So all these challenges affect the quality of teaching and learning in schools and how schools are controlled. And that's how things come in, things like corruption that we always are informed that is getting ripe. But we need to understand that happens because of the community where the school is situated. DG will say a school is a microcosm of the community. So what happens in the community also happens in the school. But this can be prevented, especially through training, through emphasizing that a governing body is a democratic structure. No few individuals take decisions. And if a wrong decision is taken, what are the other people doing? Are they only folding their arms, or they need to report these issues in order to stop it? So there are technical skills that are required in the training in order to ensure that we really deal with this issue once and for all. So the role of the department in closing is that we support the establishment of SGB associations because we work through them. And these are funded. Some of them are not using the funding, that a school subscribed to an SGB association and has to pay, but now we have norms and standards that allows the department to fund SGB associations through these norms and standards if they submit all the documents that are required by the department. We institutionalize the establishment of the national and provincial forum, SGB associations in particular. They are at the Department of Basic Education meeting every 3 months. They are supposed to be replicated at the provincial level, and that's how we keep tabs on what is going well and where we need to improve. We develop guidelines and training materials for SGB as a collective. We conduct whole school evaluation. This happens at a provincial level, and we provide support through allocation of circuit managers to schools. Averagely, each school has about a circuit manager. A circuit manager has about 30 schools to look into in order to support, to train, and ensure that everything happens as expected. We also hold meetings with officials of provincial level every quarter, and we help when we intervene and monitor unreported cases, like when you say there's a problem in that school, we need to go and look at it. I want to close by indicating what do we find in the Bella Act that helps us to have better SGBs. We have strengthened the power of the HOD to investigate financial maladministration and mismanagement. The HOD has now authority to appoint accountant, the Office of the Auditor General, to bring in law enforcement agencies anytime when the HOD feels there are issues around the management of funds, which is a plus. The Act now empowers the HOD to remove certain SGB members who may not be performing, or even take away a function of an SGB if the SGB is not utilizing that function, like maintenance. If they're given money and they don't use it, the HOD has the right to intervene. The HOD can disband a non-performing SGB as a whole until another one is elected and appoint people that can assist. We according to this act, the Amendment Act will allow SGBs to strengthen their capacity through co-option of members who are not parents but who can add value. And we're not putting a limit on where the members must be residing. As long as the school sees value in bringing that person into the SGB, then that is allowed. We're placing additional responsibilities on SGB to consult parents, especially on financial matters, that they need to be transparent to the parents and make sure parents understand where the funding is going. SGBs are required to consult parents and stakeholders on policies like admission language and code of conduct. It shouldn't be something that happens in an office. It's something that it can start in the office, but it must have the involvement of the stakeholders, especially parents in a school. We will be limiting those arguments around illegal code of conduct and all that. These are things that I've indicated they are important, and we are strengthening the role of learners in SGBs that they may not be left alone. The SGBs are required to declare their interest and recuse themselves in processes where they may be conflicted, such as in appointments, such as in contracts and all that. Chairperson, I'm not sure if I've beaten. No, I couldn't beat your 15 minutes. It's a long presentation. So we really would love to get guidance from you in order to improve our operations. So thank you very much, Chairperson and honorable members.
Thank you very much to the department for that presentation. Honorable members, I do hope that you would have received the presentation in time. So you would have really went through the presentation so that indeed we can actually enhance through the oversight, probing the work of the department. I'm now going to call on the associations, the SGB associations, to make their inputs. Yes, can we now hand over to yourselves? Also, please do indicate the delegation that is in the meeting so that we can acknowledge them. Honorable Ngobo, I see your hand is up. Honorable Ngobo.
Chairperson, thank you very much. I'm sorry to do this. I am in the parliamentary precinct. I have to attend a memorial service for the Honorable Stolle, who passed away, the Member of Parliament. I will ask to be excused at some time, and actually very soon from now.
That is noted, Honorable Ngobo. That is noted.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Yes, over to yourselves. I see the presentation, so the first association with GPF, I see that's the first presentation on the screen. Over to yourselves, and you can also introduce the team you're with in the meeting.
Good morning, Honourable Chair and Minister, Deputy Minister, Honourable members and all in attendance. Thank you. Is it possible for me to share my screen, or will you move the slides for me?
Dr. Silaseto, that's fine. You can. The screen share is available, so you can flight your own presentation. Thank you.
Apologies for that slow start. Thank you. I'm alone in this meeting and with Dr. Peter Manser, who will answer questions at a later stage if I have to leave. I have an appointment at 12 that I'm unable to put off. Thank you. So we've heard from the Department of Basic Education, and what we have experienced is very is very much in line with what has been said by the department. If I could begin with the SGB responsibilities, which we've said are onerous. And I don't think SGB members who are elected understand how onerous it is. And the issue here is there's so much that the SGB members need to know, and they're not able to have the sufficient information, especially when they begin. And we speak about the toolkit, and I don't know why things keep moving. They keep moving when I'm not moving it. The SGB membership, for the same reasons that the DBE has mentioned, the wrong people are sometimes in the position. They don't have the service mindset, and they don't understand that they're coming to do voluntary work and it will be unpaid. The other matter here is leadership is confused. And as has been said, sometimes the SGB chair thinks he's boss or she's boss, and similarly with the principal. And so we have a real issue with the understanding of the roles of governance versus professional management. We talk about staying in your lane, and SGBs mustn't usurp operational functions, and the SMT must not usurp the functions of the SGB, and provincial officials as well must not usurp functions that belong to the SGB. Some SGBs are operating in a very chaotic mode, continually having crises and so many meetings, and so we don't have consistent performance. Office bearers think they are very powerful. Understanding of recusal when there's a conflict of interest is not well understood. And then we have an issue of some people demanding transparency that actually is too transparent and would be in conflict with the need for confidentiality in some matters. So we have listed some more hindrances, and again, the Department of Basic Education has spoken about the knowledge and skills problem. It's 100% the issue. Capacity building needs to be continuous, but it needs to be effective for adult learning and suitable for different contexts, because different people need different types of capacity building. So we need to make sure we are meeting the needs of the people. Vast areas of knowledge. We work with 33 major pieces of legislation, plus a whole lot of others, and provincial and national regulations. And it's just a difficult job if the training doesn't happen properly. SGB associations such as ourselves and the others present in this particular meeting can be used to do this. But sometimes we're actively discouraged by the provincial education departments who don't recognize the training that our organization offers and insist that the people attend the training of the PED, which may not meet the needs of the members. They don't have time to interact and ask the questions, etc. So support from associations is really vital, and we can give it. With PEDs, the officials, they don't always know the official law regarding certain aspects. And also, and I think it's really important, that the head of department in the province delegates functions to district directors, for instance, but we're not aware of the extent of the delegated powers. And then we find circuit managers starting to exercise powers which we do not believe have been delegated to them, and the schools become confused and dysfunctional. The next one is the party political or union or education official interference. It happens in many schools, not all, but some. Decisions are pushed, but they're not always motivated by what's best for children. Wrongdoing not dealt with speedily, or it's ignored, and false accusations sometimes of wrongdoing are pursued because it's meeting some other interest. Excuse me. We are concerned about communication and consultation. We know how important communication always is in every matter. School contact is not good. Parental participation sometimes not actively encouraged. And when it is difficult. And then we also have the problem of disinterest. Now, we know that there's been the amendment that requires 10% participation of parents in various meetings. And that is often difficult to achieve because of disinterest. And on the other hand, when parents want to contact the school, they can't because the school phones don't work, or they don't have phones, or they haven't been able to pay their accounts. And that's a problem for functionality. Contact with provincial education departments, also problematic. Sometimes they are difficult to reach by whoever is trying to get a resolution. They phone associations randomly by taking our number off websites and ask us to solve the problems which actually should be dealt with at either school level or at the provincial level. And they have to ask us to intervene, and sometimes we can't then follow up either because we can't reach people. We don't get replies to correspondence sometimes, and we are not consulted in a systematic way with some of the provinces. National consultation is regular once a quarter, as we have just heard. Then we have PEDs instructing principals to perform functions which actually belong to the SGB. Without any warning or consultation, the school has to deliver. But actually, it all needs to have gone through the SGB. So there is sometimes bypassing the SGB, I think, for expediency, but it is not right. PED failure to perform functions. I don't want to go through all of these 7, but this is really a hindrance. If the PED doesn't do what it needs to do, the governing bodies can't do what they need to do. So the main one at the moment is, has the province transferred the full norms and standards funding that was supposed to be paid on the 15th of May? We know there has been an issue with some of the payments. So they can't do the things that they're supposed to do. The 30 September notice of how many posts for the following year, that deadline is not met. Schools can't plan for the following year. Posts aren't advertised. Substitutes aren't provided. So we end up with doubling of classes because there's nobody filling a vacant post. When the SGB goes through the recommendation process for appointment of staff, it takes a very long time for those recommendations to be processed. In some cases, there are often disputes as well. The overcrowding, the pressure on high-performing schools because parents are wanting quality education, and so there's a pressure, but we have no capacity norms at the moment. And then with damage to schools, the budgets of schools cannot accommodate the maintenance that is required in many cases. And we saw in those graphs that, in fact, that particular graph was quite low. It's because of the school's inability to perform. Quickly moving on, we are also struggling with some of the Bella amendments to SASA. And the grade R uncertainty is causing schools great stress. Now, we know that this is not clear as it stands, and the guidelines recently issued indicates the issues. And so we are asking the question with all other SGBs around the country. The law says one thing, but we know the funding and the infrastructure and the qualified staff and all the resources are not yet ready. And there are a few other problems for SGBs in terms of functionality with understanding everything that are included in the amendments. So in sum, SGBs and schools and PEDs need more knowledge and skills. That's all the people working in the sector need to understand all of the requirements in SASA, the Section 20, Section 21, 16 and 16A, plus all the financial requirements. So much money is needed, and I suppose this will be a constant refrain that it takes money to deliver quality. And obviously that money has to be used properly. Motivation to serve the best interests of learners and the will to do this. So the people who have roles to play must play those roles. We can't have people working remotely and nobody knowing where the person is working and if they're even working. It causes distress to SGBs when we can't contact people. Functionality, it's hard work and continuous, and it's everyone. And then just as a last point, I think there's a missing link that we need capacity building for principals very specifically to enable them to fulfill their SASA Section 16 and 16A functions in a manner that enables SGBs to function optimally. Principals are at schools for many years usually. SGBs could change every 3 years. Sometimes some people remain, but sometimes it's a complete change and they have to start all over again. So it's important that the principal has the capacity to help develop the SGBs and know the roles. What's the principal and SMT's role and what's the governance role? So thank you very much. That is our presentation.
Chairperson, are we able to move on to the next presentation? Members, I'm not sure whether the chairperson is still with us. I don't see.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, Chair.
I'm here.
Maybe move on to the next one.
Connectivity for a minute, but I'm here. Can we take the next presentation? And thank you very much to GBF for your presentation. We really appreciate that. Can we take the next presentation?
Thank you. Good morning, Chairperson and members of the committee, as well as the leadership, the Minister and DBE. Thank you. I'm Jaco Deacon. I'm the CEO of FETSAS, the Federation for School Governing Bodies. We're celebrating our 33 years of existence this year, so we've been involved in governance for a very long time in the new dispensation, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to say a few words and to present on this topic. And I'm going to focus my attention on the capacity building, the roles and functions, and then what we didn't see in the presentation of DBE. To do that, I'm going to put myself just somewhere in that screen. Hopefully you will be able to follow. The first thing that I've missed in that presentation, I know DBE had time pressure to do it in a very short space of time. But we cannot use the National Development Plan to give the direction. The Constitution and the Schools Act and obligations didn't get sufficient attention in that one. I was concerned about the lack of data, and I think as Portfolio Committee, you should request the specific information on how did the provinces really budget for the implementation of the SGB training. And it's true, we do have national documentation. We have the functionality tool. We've been having that capacity document for a very long time. It's useful information developed on a national level, but your challenge is to police and to oversee what's happening on provincial level. I didn't see the provincial actions, and I think that's something you should ask for. What's actually happening in the provinces? Not only the budget for the SGB development, who are those so-called resources that they've used, the NGOs who presented those training, and you should ask for the numbers. We've got 22,381 schools. How many of those attended the SGB training? How many SGB members were trained? And I think that's the missing information that you should request as part of your duty. Then if we look at some of the allegations made, It's simply allegations that SGB sometimes use the tuck shops. Is it 100 schools? Is it 1,000 schools? So I think it's important to get context to that, but also the successful stories. We've got wonderful schools with SGBs performing exceptionally well. And I think it's important to get that picture as well. When you do your oversight visits in the province, to go and see those schools as well. What's happening in a well-run school where the governors do what they're supposed to do, where your managers do what they're supposed to do, and then you get to a specific outcome. And that's the blueprint for the other schools. And then I don't see the commitment to train on provincial level. And I think that's the weak link. It's not the national department, your national minister, and your what's happening on a national level. The issue is on provincial level. And Theo pointed out the non-performance of the provinces on payment, on appointments, and the disappointment is normally on that level. This slide is the slide that disturbs me the most. My sleepless nights is about this. The reality is that out of all our public schools, on our estimate, on how we measure, 80% of our schools don't perform as they're supposed to perform. I'm not referring to matric results. We use other items to measure, including your governance, management, quality of leadership, discipline, and so forth. And what's the biggest difference between a functional and dysfunctional school? And that's how these entities, your management team, your governors really work together to bring change. And our current position is 80% dysfunctional and 20% functional. And I think that's part of a national crisis. We need to have a deep understanding of school governance. What I've seen and heard so far is compliance. Now, compliance is part of governance, but a mere checkbox exercise, that's not governance. That's not good governance at all. And we still confuse the public school model versus the state school model. So if we don't deal with that in our initial training, in the induction, to really go into the detail of what's the meaning of ownership, then we're in trouble. To understand the juristic personality, to understand the principle of legality, obviously the roles and responsibilities as indicated in that national document, but officials doing the training sometimes don't understand the basic principles. And then obviously we need to look at best practices like the King Principles of Good Governance developed in our country, which is an international benchmark for good governance. And that should feature in how we do things. I want to share 2 slides of training. And the reason why I want to share this is I want to ask the question, if a small association with 2,000 member schools and a group of 25 trainers can train SGB members in a very short space of time, with these numbers, with documentation available in all 11 languages, with a sign language option available, what's the excuse for provincial departments not to fulfill that training obligation? You've seen, we're 15 months into the new term of the SGBs after the election. So you would expect immediate training in the induction and then the rest of the training that will follow. And on this slide, you will see what we've done just in 2024. Remember, members paid for this themselves, 0 support from provincial departments in this regard. What 25 trainers can do nationally in a very short space of time and really optimize technology. And there you can see the numbers. Every single member of a governing body should have a manual like that in their hands. And that manual, that's the manual, the practical guide that's available in the 11 languages. Your chairperson and school principal must have a guide. Welcome to the board, where we focus on procedures during meeting procedures and to help and guide you through strategic planning. For this year, if I move to the next slide, just the first few months, to focus on the advanced process of governance. How do you apply the King Principles? We've published the amendments in our Pocket Statutes series that schools are trained on the BELA, and that's the information that's already available on the training that we've done with a limited budget in a very short time period. And I don't see this kind of information reaching the portfolio committee, and we even struggle to get that information on the national level. You need to look at the number of governors in our schools. You need to look at the number of schools and then quantify, are we really training them as we're supposed to do? Because if you don't do that, then you'll get all the issues like GBF has raised in their presentation about the non-compliance. Mr. Ndlebe referred to the wrong reasons people serve on the SGB, but if we don't train, then we'll struggle. Mr. Ndlebe also referred you to Section 19 of the Schools Act, and I want to specifically refer you to Section 19(4), where provincial departments can utilize SGB associations to do the training. In the past 3 elections, we've volunteered, we've sent letters to all 9 provinces to say we have the material and the ability to train. We haven't even received a single response from any provincial department to say, please help and assist us. We volunteered. 0 response. So it's in the legislation, but we don't get proper responses. Chair, I want to emphasize 2 important things. Number 1 is just a few years ago, the late William Mbuli asked Professor Dion Rousseau on Morning Live, what's governance all about? And then Prof. Rousseau from the Ethics Institute said, governance is all about preventing good people from doing stupid things. Or the other way around. When we have good governance, good people, and the education system is full of good people, can do great things. So if we don't get the governance part right, our good people will still do stupid things in the system. We cannot do SGB training simply by relying on people that have never served on a governing body. I don't think they can really train if you don't understand governance. In some provinces, they instruct the school principals to do the SGB training. Now, if you understand governance, the SGB, they fulfill an oversight role on the functions of the school principal. Now you give the task to the principal to tell those people who provide oversight how they should oversight. I'm telling the people who's going to mark my papers, how to mark my papers. That's not governance. It's bad governance if we do that. And that's the norm in a number of provinces. Chair, I'm reaching the end of my presentation. Focus of governance is not on compliance, not compliance only. It's not a tick box exercise. It's much more. There's an article, What Makes Great Boards Great? To say, what's the key to a great board? And I think we need to borrow the terminology from the business sector when we talk about governance in schools as well. Is the key to success, to move from a good governing body to a great governing body, is the way in which we work together. That's the key to success, and that's much more than compliance. All the different entities in your school, how they come together in the SGB, and how the interaction is then there between your governors and your managers. And that article refers to this virtuous cycle of trust, respect, and openness. And if we don't get to the heart of this during the SGB training, and in the interactions between the school then and the department and the departmental officials, then we're in conflict space all the time. And that's a different kind of governance. That's not mere compliance. So my plea to you and the Portfolio Committee is to really police and make sure these things happen on provincial level, to encourage the provinces to make use of the established SGB associations with quality training material, make funds available that we can do that. We've got a proven track record, but we get closed doors in all 9 provinces. Again, I want to emphasize on a national level, we've got a good working relationship. I think there are good documentation. Your crisis is when you go to the provinces. In your oversight meetings and your oversight visits, those are the questions you need to ask on provincial level as well. Chair, thank you for the opportunity. All the best for your endeavors. And thank you for giving us the platform to raise the issues, but also to point out that there are successful stories that we can learn from our member schools and our schools in our different provinces. There are good stories. There's a blueprint for success, but we need a leadership decision to say, let's make this work. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Deacon, and to the team that you're with, or those that have joined at home. To the members, those are the presentations. I know that we also have an SGB in the meeting. If they want to make any input, I know they did not prepare a presentation, but we'll give you an opportunity to make an input nonetheless before we take questions and deliberations.
Good morning, Chair, Minister of Education South Africa, Deputy Minister, DG, officials, and all my comrades. I'm happy that we are led. The chairperson is a mother, the minister a mother, the deputy minister a mother. That's so true to me. You know, we listened to the presentation from the department and the presentation from my comrades, and deliberately, National Association of School Government did not want to make a presentation due to the fact that now we know the story. It's an old story. It's a good story. But I think what we want to present here, Chair, is that what lacks from this good story is implementation strategy. So that next time when you call the department to come and account, it must be based on the implementation strategy, so that we can count and then account on the money that you have given them and all those things, and the numbers and all those things. So that is exactly what is lacking. So National Association of School Government Bodies will make that appeal that next time when you call them, it is not this good story that we know. It's a very good story, old story, but it lacks accountability. You know, it's and with due respect, it's a mess in our schools in terms of governance. It's really a mess. And we always ask question whether it is by mistake that school governing body is being legislated. And all these officials are mandated to implement this. I must tell you. So, by saying that, I want to support this. The minister, and I'm happy that the minister, I believe, is the youngest among the mothers that I've talked of. She must be understanding the South African situation. And as I said, I think she's the youngest among all. That she's been given power by the government, I mean by the parliament, National Education Policy Act, number 27 of 1996. When you look at section 3, determination of education policy by subsection 4, subject to the provision of subsection 1 to 3, the minister shall determine national policy for the planning, provision, finance, coordination, management, governance, programs, monitoring, evaluation, and well-being of the education system, and without getting from the generality of this section, may determine national policy for. I don't want to go into all those things. And I'm saying the minister, he has been given power to monitor. And I don't think it will be the minister who does that. The minister will always give a directive. I think we really have to talk to the officials here. Whether really are they prepared to do the right thing. We know this story, good story. It's very old story. But I think if I'm correct, Minister, and I want to talk to you now, that it is your duty that next time we don't listen to the story, next time we come and listen to the figures and the challenges and all those things, and the officials must account all those things. It's a mess. Disrespect in the schools, especially the poorest of the poor, the township, the working class, the rural, the deep rural, is mess. And we can't stand by. Minister, I think you cannot stand by. And as I said, we take advantage of you being the youngest, I think, and you understand probably the situation of South Africa. We think really and truly you have to drive this and change the narrative so that we must okay this story. And next year when you come, we must okay the story and say, yes, these are the figures, there's the figures, and this is what, and here are the challenges and all those. And I think National Association of School Girls will be very much grateful if we can have an implementation strategy where we are just going to talk about the figures, the challenges, and the research and all those things that will make this story a good story. And I want to say this is a good story. We are listening to it. It's a very good story. Although my comrades have GBF and FESAS have gotten to that. But you know, I think FESAS and you know this story. We know this story. But I think we want, really, Minister, we want to make an appeal to you. I think Leben knows what is happening in the schools. I always talk to him. What is really happening in schools and the schools that I've categorized, and it cannot be business as usual. So we want to make an appeal, Minister, use your power that we have given by the law to do the right thing so that we know that we have our minister in South Africa who cares particularly of those schools that I have mentioned of. Please, thank you very much, Chair. Mataganya. Thank you.
Are you done, Mr. Manaha? Can we continue? I take it that
Yes,
Mr.
it's done,
Manaha
Chair.
is done. Yeah, so can we now move to the deliberations? I am noting hand. Okay. Honorable Kaba, Honorable Christians, Honorable Mgadi, Honorable Yodan, and Honorable Low, in that order. Ma'am Kaba, you can start.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Greeting to you and the honorable members in the platform. Let me close my
Chair,
video
thank you. Chair?
Honorable Shkwambana?
I'm not sure if you can see my hand up. I'm trying
Yes,
to... Sorry?
Yes, you are noted. Yourself and Honorable Gaza, Honorable Yanga, you are also noted.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Greeting to the members on the platform, all protocol observed, Chair. Greeting to the department, Honorable Minister, and Honorable Deputy Minister. I'm greeting you all in the name of the Jesus Christ. Chairperson, let me welcome all the presentation that were presented before us. I think, Chair, for me to be satisfied what I'm saying here, I must speak my language, because this issue, I think it needs my language so that I'll know that what I was saying to you, it was what I was so where I came from. Chairperson, let me direct this issue to the Honorable Minister, if Chair will allow me. Honorable Minister, in the schools in Katlehong, there is a schools in Katlehong, Honorable Minister. As I see this presentation talks about SGB, most of the issues are speaking about SGB. I visited the school so-called Iketse secondary schools, where there is no teacher there. The teacher is acting, the principal is the acting principal there. Because why? The principal was suspended, going to court, mismanaging the monies of the schools. My question is that if the man of the school, the people who are supposed to ukuthi babheke imali zesikole i-SGB, manje lo principal njengoba exoshwa esuspendwa ehamba amakhodi ngemali yesikole, kuza kanjani? Ikuphi i-legislation lapho ye-province, and nikuphi nina njenge-national DPE who overseeing all provinces? Njengoba lesikolo sine-mess engaka kangangokuba ingane zalesa sikolo zifika late deliberately, so because akunanto eshoyo ukuthi le SGB i-trend, and uprincipal akekho esikolweni wadla imali zesikolo, kodwa imali zesikolo fanele sayinelwe SGB. But i-SGB, the chairperson who was there before is still there with the treasurer. Manje umbuzo wami uthi, if labantu be-SGB batreniwe ngempela ukuthi babhekane nemali zesikolo bazigade, kuza kanjani ukuthi kuhamba uprincipal yethu baphinde basale laba base-Iketseni? Now, Chair, in other schools in Ivory Park, I'll come back to this school because this school have a mess. In other schools in Ivory Park, some of the children, they told me that the teachers are skipping a period for them to learn, like the life orientation. They didn't learn the life orientation, some of the schools there. Manje question yami ithi, bazoyiphatha kanjani le life orientation abantwana bengazange bayifunda DPE? And Chairperson, when the GPF it was talking about the capacity building. My question is that, is this capacity building go all South Africa, all provinces, all regions, or all schools individually? So Because this school, it looks like these SGP, they were not trained to do this. I'm talking about the IKT. They were not trained because when I was asking questions to them, when I was there doing my oversight individually with my office and the MPL, when I asked them about the meeting with parents, they were saying to us, parents, they don't want to come to the meeting. How? Parents, they don't want to come to the meeting. Are you serious? Yes, we do call them. The SGP says so to me. We do call them, but they don't want to come on board. Now, my question is, where is the province? Where is the HOD? They said you will report this issue in the province. They officially they just suspend the principal and open the case for principals. Manje ke sihlalo sikusho ukuthi sinenkinga enkulu kulama SGB esibhalelwa ngayo incwadi ukuthi right trend anjani yonke into esoft. But when you go to do one of the schools in your area, you find something else. That is why ngibuza umbuzo ukuthi ngabe zonke izikolo included in kule training program yama SGB, a building capacity of SGB. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Kaba. On the list after Honorable Kaba, it was Honorable Christians.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I would just like to say thank you to the presenters on this very important topic today. And of course, apologies if you can hear my dogs barking. They're working in our area here. My first question is to the DBE presentation and the SGB functionality. Now, Chair, we've heard a lot about the capacity building programs, and I think, of course, it is welcome. And we've also heard about the SGB functionality tool as a key instrument for tracking school governance performance. Now, I think that the value of this tool lies not only in the data that is being collected, but also how it will continue to inform targeted support in areas, especially in provinces where persistent functionality challenges persist, as we've heard, and especially in rural areas and so on. And my question to the department is, whether they can provide provincial and district level results from the SGB functionality tool. Is that available? And if they can tell us how these insights directly influence training interventions or budget allocations, perhaps in the last year. And then I think the vetting and nomination of SGB elections also, presents problems or has historically presented issues. So both the DBE and our civil society partners have acknowledged that some individuals contest SGB positions for self-serving reasons, perhaps. And these could include political gain, access to school procurement processes, and so forth. And obviously, this undermines the integrity of school governance, which I think is persistent and remains a huge problem that we have to delve into. Now, given the widespread misconception and politicization of SGBs, how is the department working with provincial education departments to improve vetting and nomination processes of SGB elections? Is there such a process in place? And how successful are these vetting and nomination processes, if in fact they do exist? And then also, I believe that our principals need further capacitation as well as circuit managers. Of course, I think that could improve on these processes because it's not only SGBs, but these school governance people or members that also need training. So, effective school governance requires principals and circus managers who understand the distinction between governance and management. And I believe that it is this very same people who are able to support SGBs without overstepping, but at the same time without underperforming. Yet, I think that this area remains underdeveloped in the DBE training plans. So my question to DBE is, are there any plans to capacitate principals and circuit management on school governance and, of course, what their specific role in enabling SGB success is? And then we've heard that FETSAS has spoken broadly on governance and collaboration. And amongst their concerns was the lack of provincial action and DBE follow-through. I think for me, the question remains whether, indeed, FETSAS has perhaps submitted any formal proposals to the DBE, and if so, how were they received and were they incorporated into provincial education plans? FETSAS raised concerns over lack of provincial action. And, I think the question is whether they have submitted formal proposals or recommendations, and to DBE, whether those formal recommendations or models have actually been implemented. Has such a response been received and implemented? And then with regard to equity and representation, which I think remains an issue in our governance models. Now, equity and inclusion are, I think, central to transformation of school governance. We've heard about it a lot, and during our oversight visits, I think it came up when we visited many of the schools. So equity and inclusion are central to transforming our school governance sector. And I think it's important to understand how SGB support structures like FETSAS incorporate these values into training content and governance frameworks, especially in areas or in schools from previously disadvantaged communities. So I just have a question for FETSAS here. Can they elaborate on how they incorporate principles of equity and inclusion in their governance models, especially in previously disadvantaged communities? And then, of course, I would like to direct the same question to DBE, whether in fact they take into consideration equity and inclusion when rolling out programs and in their governance models, and how they support school governance bodies, and especially in training in these areas. And then to the GBF on accountability and support. Now, your presentation allows clear failures from provincial education departments to fill their obligations. I think you've mentioned funding transfers as well to post-provisioning. And this raises the concern of enforceability and what tools Parliament can use to ensure provincial education department accountability. Now, you noted failures, of course, as I said, in constitutional obligations. Now, what specific accountability measures would GBF recommend Parliament consider to ensure such compliance? And then also to, again, to the depoliticizing of SGBs. Your presentation touches on the risk of party political interference in SGBs. I think a concern shared by many who are on this community. Yet there's little consensus on how to address this without limiting legitimate community participation. So how does GBF propose managing political interference in SGB decisions? Is there a model or framework that you have in mind? And have you, spoken to DBE on this? Do you have a proposal? And of course, have you shared this and have you received any feedback? Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Christians. Honorable, you're done.
Sorry, Chair. I think it's me.
Oh, yes, yes. Honorable Mkadi. Apologies,
Yes.
Honorable Mkadi. You'll come after Honorable Mkadi.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Greeting all members and greeting all protocol observed. Thank you for the presentation. The first presentation, SGP functionality, the 2024 School Governing Body Functionality Survey identify persistent gaps in governance process, policy development, and financial management, in particular in rural areas. In rural areas and under-resourced schools, what percentage of SGPs were found to be non-functionally or unperforming? And how is the department ensuring that circuit managers and provincial official intervene promptly in these cases to prevent further deterioration of school governance? Despite the legal obligation in Section 19 of SASSA for the head of department to provide both introductory or continuing training for SGP members, the presentation acknowledged inconsistent training and limited understanding of legislative mandates. What proportion of SGPs had access to all required training modules in the 2024 cycle? And what accountability measures are in place for provinces that fail to meet the mandate? The third question, the presentation highlights that in some cases, SGB members exploit their positions for personal gain, such as influencing contracts or appointments. Despite the police provision and the SGP functionality tools, how many reported cases of SGB-related maladministration or misconduct were investigated by head of departments in 2024? And the last one, what specific consequences were implemented in line with the powers granted under the Bella Bill? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mkadi. Honorable, you're done.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Greetings to all the Portfolio Committee members, to the Honourable Minister, and the DG and the department, as well as all the stakeholders present and discussing this important topic today. Chairperson, my questions are relating mostly to the concerns that were raised by the stakeholders that we've heard from today. And a major concern that was raised is the implementation of capacity building, as well as other programs that relate to school governing bodies. And then I suppose the implementation of the mandate of school governing bodies. Does the department have a work plan for the implementation of capacity building to ensure that this takes place, expeditiously after school governing bodies have been elected, but also in a very effective way. And then how are we measuring the effectiveness and provincial performance when it comes to the implementation of training? So are there reports or data or timelines for training that has taken place in the last 15 months? And are we aware of how successful that training rollout was? When we look at the presentations today, could that information be made available to the portfolio committee? Chair, there are also some challenges mentioned about attendance and then the complexity of the role and the comprehension of the training content. When it comes to the members of SGBs, sort of understanding what their role of and considering whether this training is actually landing with them. Does the outcome of those issues inform reviews of the training content and plans for the next term of SGBs or long-term sustainability, or what do we do with that information when we realize, that this is a concern that has been raised? The survey indicates persistent challenges in under-resourced and rural schools, Chair. What interventions are planned specifically to support these SGBs in performing their core functions? And are there considerations given to the rural context and the determinations of what those challenges are? So I suppose some of them, as had been mentioned by previous speakers, it might be conflicts of interest in joining the SGB's vetting, or then when it comes to capacity building, I suppose attendance and whether it's actually being implemented by provincial departments. What are the considerations given to the rural context when it comes to that? Then, Chair, there's a necessity for targeted rural support, it seems, when we look at these findings, especially aimed at boosting functionality in under-resourced schools. And I was pleased to hear that this is in place when it comes to financial support, but I'm also concerned that funds are not used when this has been made available. And I think the department did outline some of the possible or common reasons for that. But when it comes to the funding made available and used by SGBs, could we have the data around how many schools in which provinces did not use which amount of funding that was made available to them? And then the reason why. If we know why, did they not comply to the requirements, or is it the issue of capacity, or what is the case? Because I think there might be an opportunity for the department to move into this gap. How do we ensure that SGBs are made aware of this funding that's made available to them, and how to access this for the improvement of their schools? So if we've trained SGBs on, this is an opportunity available to them, particularly to improve their schools, and that these are the specific requirements of the department to have access to those funds, but yet we are still seeing that, something is happening here where they're not actually making use of these opportunities. What is the department doing to encourage an improvement in that anomaly? And then, Chairperson, the matter of targeted training for principals had already been raised by my colleague, Dr. Christians, so I won't ask that question, but I'm also interested in the answer. And lastly, Chairperson, where does parental oversight and mechanisms for parental feedback on the effectiveness of SGBs fit in? And how is the department encouraging transparency and openness to the broader school community when it comes to, in particular, financial decisions made by school governing bodies? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Jordan. Honorable Law.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Let me start by saying that to welcome the presentation, I've made some few points. And I think the most important point that we must take note of, Chair, that one wants to highlight, it is the concern where the department or they will be excluding the school governing bodies in decision-making processes that are quite important, and I think we must emphasize. And I'm starting with this point because I've noted a significance of issues that were raised to say the school governing bodies, they do exist in some instances. But what becomes a primary concern is the capacity and the type of trainings that they receive that are not aligned to the recent issues that they are confronted with. For example, Chair, it is expected that they should be inclined and much more effective on the issue of finances, and they should be inclined as to how they are going to be able to run the day-to-day of the schoolings. And my observation as I was going through is that there is a concerted effort not to align or put on par the SGB by certain teachers or principals, mainly to want to take advantage of the fact that our parents or our school governors are not into the competency of the particular principal. So it is quite important that the department, as they bring up these policies and guidelines, they bring them in alignment with the realities that says that they should make sure that our people are well capacitated in a way that they understand basic financial literacies that will be able to assist, because it says a lot about the day-to-day runnings of our schools. It says that the failure or some parts of the service delivery is not because you are not able to, it is because of inadequate and inefficient issues that we are confronted with regard to the school governing body. So I think we are compelled to really look onto the issues of the school governing body, and we really need to, indeed, I want to agree with the association of the SGB that they must make time to come and maybe inadequately tell us what are the issues also that you can look onto so you can assist the process. So my concerns was on aligning that as we do the trainings and as we offer trainings, let it be that they are realistic, they are measurable, they are tangible, and they are aligned with the realistic issues that confront our parents, and they are dealing with day-to-day running of the schoolings, and so that we can actively identify other gaps as to how do we strengthen the SGBs and strengthen and collaborate the relationship with the SGBs and the SMNT, the school governing body. The other concern that was also highlighted that I think is quite significant, it is the solemn role of the SGBs that they sometimes misconcept or misunderstood in terms of defending, trying to represent the interest of the school at a level of not wanting to compromise the values and the principles of guiding how to run certain schools. So I think it is quite important. We also put emphasis that as we do these trainings, they emphasize on the roles and what becomes the interest and expectations from the SGBs in terms of when they're elected, and how do we therefore make sure that we do not politicize also the SGB so that they get contaminated and they get entangled into community factions that will deviate what is meant by government to involve the SGBs to run the school. So I've got some few questions, Chair, that are not much more to further want to get clarity on this. Hence, I could have spoken about training, that the lack of training from SGB. So I want to know how can we ensure that training programs are tailored to address the specific needs of SGB members across different contexts, and what the mechanism will be put into place to evaluate the effectiveness of these training initiatives. And then the other concern, I think the election process for SGBs are marked by variabilities in irregulations, Chair, unclear candidate information and administrative inconsistencies across the provinces. These inconsistencies often lead to unqualified individuals being elected without having to be vetted, and this also undermines the democratic intent of the SGB model and the quality of governance in our schools. So I also want to check what measures will be put in place to monitor and evaluate the uniformity and fairness of SGB elections across provinces,
And how will the DBE address any discrepancies that arise during the election processes? The power imbalances or lack of transparency and poor record keeping, Chair, also create internal conflicts between SGBs and school management leadership. And these governance frictions can hinder effective collaboration and decision-making, ultimately affecting the school's performance and the quality of education provided to the learners. My question, therefore, I want to ask the DBE, what specific actions will the department take to ensure better communication and coordination between the SGBs and school management? And how will feedback from SGBs be incorporated into district level decision-making process? So these are the questions that I want to pose. And then the other one that I think is quite significant is that many SGBs, particularly under Section 21 schools, they struggle inadequately with financial oversight and poor record keeping, which hinder effective resource allocation and management. And this lack of financial accountability, Chair, creates vulnerabilities that can lead to mismanagement and corruption. So my question will be, therefore, how will the department enforce compliance with financial management guidelines and among SGBs, and what steps will be taken to ensure that audits are conducted effectively and transparently? And then the other concern is the crafting and enforcing of policies, such as those related to language, code of conduct, and safety procedures, and that reveal governance gaps that can undermine the effectiveness of SGBs. Parental involvement in development of key policies is often limited, Chair, particularly in the marginalized areas, which diminishes the quality and acceptance of these policies. So what becomes quite important, for example, the introduction of the BELA Act aims to address these gaps by promoting inclusive policy and development practices and enhancing parental participation. So it is quite important that we have ongoing engagement with parents and stakeholders. It's quite necessary to effectively develop policies and implement them appropriately for them to be aligned on what is realized on them. So how will the department ensure that the BELA Act is effectively communicated and implemented at a school level from deeply rural areas of Umtata, from the deeply rural areas of Itireleng in Northwest? How will they make sure that what strategies will be employed to promote meaningful parental involvement in policy development? Having to say that, Chair, I think my submissions will end in that, and it's important that we address the key issues that are important for improving functionality of our SGBs and ultimately enhance the quality of education now in South Africa, so that we're able to broadly bring back the confidence in our schools and broadly deal with the maintenance issues. And we should see our parents being involved as speedily dealing with presentations and addressing them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Low. Honorable Gaza. Honorable Gaza.
Yes, Chair, I'm sorry. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Greetings to you, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, Minister, Deputy Minister, and everyone in attendance. Honorable Chair, I will start by supporting Umam Klaba when she was raising that this presentation on SGB functionality presents a dangerous, misleading narrative that is hiding systemic failures in school governance while it praises its progress. I have identified here, Chairperson, that the DBE has ignored the uncontrolled corruption, exclusionary practices, and provisional sabotage that have rendered many SGBs to be ineffective. So my question here, Chairperson, just want to check if the Department of Basic Education can provide documented evidence of how many corruption cases involving SGBs were reported, that were investigated and successfully prosecuted in the last 3 years, broken down by provinces. Another issue here, Honorable Chair, that is bothering me is of the SGB functionality tool. For me, I see it as the little more than a self-assessment exercise that is only allowing captured SGPs to whitewash their failures. Without independent verification, this tool for me, it's meaningless. Even the DBE has provided some evidence of inability to name a singly disbanded SGP or covered funds, despite admitting to financial mismanagement. Meanwhile, we are very concerned about rural schools that remain neglected. So I just want to check if the Department of Basic Education can be able to provide us with a complete data set that is used to generate its provincial functionality graphs. A list of schools where the tool identified irregularities, but no action was taken. Verification that rural schools were physically visited during assessment. Another concern, Honorable Chair, it's of exclusionary training programs. The training programs, for me, are equally problematic because they are constituting what can only be described as a language apartheid. We see here workshops are being conducted in English, and they are excluding 80% of non-English speaking parents, while rural areas report course workshop with no substantive content or follow-up. This is particularly shocking, given that SGPs control millions in school funds without mandatory financial literacy training. So my question here is to check if DPE can produce attendance registers showing current participation rates per language group, copies of training materials used in each province, bank statements that are approving payments to claimed training service providers. Another concern, Honorable Chairperson, is of Provincial Sabotage Bela Act. I feel that provincial education departments, they are actively sabotaging SASSA's democratic intentions through jobs for cash. And they are deliberately funding delays that force schools into debt. The Bela Act, far from strengthening SGPs as claimed, actually centralized power by allowing HODs to disband elected bodies without due process. And for me, this is a clear tool for political targeting. So in this case, I want to check if Minister can be able to provide documentation of all schools where PEDs overruled SGP appointments, proof of disciplinary action against officials delaying school funds, and legal opinion justifying Bela's dissolution clauses. So in this case, when I'm concluding, Honorable Chair, I just want the department to note that we demand the immediate action to replace the self-assessment I was talking about with independent forensic audits of all SGPs. Establish a 10 billion community control training fund with instruction in local languages. Amend the Bela Act to remove HODs and check dissolution powers, and implement direct funding to SGP accounts to bypass corrupt provincial officials. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Gaza. Honorable Shikwambana.
Thank you, Chair. Let me take this opportunity and greet the Minister, the Deputy Minister, and fellow committee members who are present here today, and everyone who's part of this meeting. Chair, it is necessary that every time when we start this meeting, we must also highlight on the matters of the national interest and also try to check how is the department and the ministry dealing with those issues. I've got two issues of national interest that I want to start with before I can go to some few questions that I may raise with regard to the presentations that were made before us. The first issue to the department and the minister, I just want to check with regard to the natural disaster that happened in the Eastern Cape, where we have lost a number of people in the Eastern Cape through floods. And also, it is noted that even the schools were affected in that process. And then more than 300 schools, if not 400 schools, were affected in the province or the entire province. I just want to check if we can get a report from the department as to what extent did the school got damaged and how was the teaching and learning affected. And you will recall very well that this natural disaster took place at the time where learners were expected to be writing their mid exams. And I want to check how did the disaster itself affected these learners, and how is the department planning to salvage the situation and make sure that our learners get to have another opportunity to write their exams. Because my understanding is that we may have a lot of learners who are affected and who could not even be able to write their exams. So how is the department dealing with that situation, the entire situation in the province, and how are they assisting the schools that were affected? The other issue that I want to speak on of national interest, the Department of Basic Education issued an invitation to the publishers of the books so that they can come forth and have their books checked and also evaluated so that they can form part of the database of the Department of Basic Education in terms of the publishers. I just want to check the process. How did the process unfold? And how far are we with the process? How many publishers or companies that publishes books that have applied or that have come forth to respond to the invitation? And out of the number that the companies have responded, how many are shortlisted to form part of the database of the Department of Basic Education? And to the issue of interest, there is a company called Shutter and Shooter. Is the company part of the publishers that are on the database of the Department of Education? And if so, can the department explain how did they deal with the complaint that was launched with regard to unfair treatment in terms of this company having been afforded an opportunity to receive information prior other publishers they can get, and also prepare themselves to be the ones that can be better appointed to be in the database? So we will recall very well that the owner of this Shutter and Shooter is Sandile Zungu, who have recently won a tender with lottery. So the person seems, or the guy seems to be the one taking everything, and now he has entered the publishing space, particularly to be the one publishing the books that our learners should be actually studying or use them to study. So we want to check, because there are or seems to be irregularities in the process of the invitation, processing, and also appointing people who should form part of the database. Is the company part of the people that are on the database of the publishers? So coming back to to the issue that we have today here before us, Chair, I think generally there's consensus that we've got governance problems in our schools. There's consensus that there's dysfunctionality within our schools. There's consensus that our schools are not having or do not have proper leadership that should be guiding these schools to be better schools in future. There's consensus that the system that we have now is not assisting us. There's consensus that the governance structures of our school is collapsing. Because if we are going to have 80% of the public schools having dysfunctional governance, it's a call for a crisis. It's a national crisis. When 80% of the schools do not have a proper governance in terms of functionality, we've got a serious problem. And we can't allow these things to continue going on like that. Because trainings are provided, but these trainings assisting us. Because the department and all people who have presented before us here are telling us that the SGBs do not really understand their roles, and they enter into that space for a specific reason, some for party, political mandate, some for enrichment, some to run businesses within the school, some to control contracts and tenders in the school, which is the main problem. And we know this problem. What are we doing as the department? Because noting the problems and also saying, but we are training these people, you continuously train these people, but you get the same result. You continuously call meetings and want to resolve this, but you continuously get the same result. There's nothing that comes better after you have conducted all these trainings. Are these trainings relevant and providing proper assistance and understanding to our people that this is what they expected to do as the SGBs? Because we've got a stress crisis in our school. That is why, Chairperson and the Minister and the Deputy Minister, you will agree with me that when we go to oversights in our schools, we find many problems in our schools. There's a school in Limpopo, in the sub-region of Tzaneen, called Mantare High School. This school, it is a principal who do not have a good relationship with the SGB, who also do not have a good relationship with the teachers in the school, who further do not even have a good relationship with the learners in the school. And that bad relationship and bad governance of the school had led the school to drop in terms of the result the performance of the school. Why? Teachers do not have that oomph to go to class and teach. Learners also were not also responding properly to teaching and learning. Parents also distanced themselves to the running or day-to-day running of the school. And that automatically impacted negatively to the performance of learners in class. So if we are not focusing direct to this issue of governance in our schools, and we get to agree that this problem, it gives birth to the bad performance in our schools, then we're going to have a serious problem. So we need Department of Basic Education to pay a specific focus into addressing the issue of governance in our school. It's not only mismanagement of funds. There are a lot of things that are contributory factors to the failure and also to learners in our classes are not to perform very well because there's no good relationship amongst SGB teachers and also principals and the learners to say so. I just given you an example with one school that has drastically dropped due to the fact of poor governance and people who think they are in charge of the school and that they can't listen to anyone else. So one of my questions that I want to put, I just want to understand how many schools in the entire country, and this question goes to the Department of Basic Education? How many schools in the entire country or in the whole country that have full composition of the SGB, including learners? Because I hear in the compositions of SGB in the presentation, one of the slides that you have actually presented to us, it shows learners forming part of the SGB. How do you integrate learners to form part of the SGB? Is the learners representative councils that form part of the SGB? What happens in a school where there's no learners representative councils? How are learners forming part of the SGB, and how do you integrate them into that process? And what contributions are these learners making to the success of the functionality of the SGBs? How many cases does the department have of financial mismanagement of the school, either by the SGB or the principal? And how these cases were resolved by the department? It can be the provincial department, it can be national department, it can be second or regional. How many of those cases do you have, and how did you actually resolve them? And how often does the department conduct the training of the SGB, and how is this training budgeted? I hear you are training them, but how do you do it quarterly? Do you do it once a year? Do you do it monthly, weekly? How are you conducting these trainings to train the SGBs? And how are you budgeting for these trainings to take place? And my last question, Chair, that which also one of our members here of the portfolio committee, if I'm not mistaken, Honorable Gaza, touched on, is the question of the corruption cases that were reported in the department. How many are they? And how did you deal with those corruption cases? Is there anyone arrested? What is happening? Can we have an account of those corruption cases? And who, in the main, is part of these corruption cases? So as I conclude, Chair, there is a tendency within the schools across our country wherein you will find that if there's an SGB post in a school, or even if it's not an SGB post in a school, but also a department post in the school, generally the SGB is involved in the process of getting any teacher that the school may want to get. And we have got a serious problem, particularly in the province of Mpumalanga and KZN, where teachers' posts are not filled. And they are not filled because there's infights between the SGB and the principals. The principal wants a certain individual, or the principal has his own people that has reserved for the post, or the SGB also have their own interest or people that they've reserved for the post, and therefore the two happen to fight. And as they fight, the posts themselves get to be posted. And they're not actually appointing teachers. And learners are suffering in the classrooms because there's no one to teach them, while teachers who are part of the SGBs and the SGBs, which are the parents and the principals in the schools, are fighting to an extent where some of these teaching posts are being sold to our people. Our people are paying SGBs to get employed. Our people are paying principals to get employed. How many cases that the department have wherein people have to pay either the principal, the SGB, or anyone with influence in the SGBs or the leadership of the school that the department have? And how did you deal with it? Because we've got many cases in Mpumalanga where posts are not being filled. Our people have applied, our people do qualify, but because they do not have money to pay unions, leadership, because they do not have money to pay principals, because they do not have money to pay SGBs. They're not being employed. Priority goes to those who pay. Priority goes to those who are close to SGB. Priority goes to those who are close to the principal. And even those, some of the principal even demand to sleep with some of our sisters who are applying for this post. How many cases of such that the department has received, and how are you dealing with them? Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Shikwambana. Honorable Kwavana.
Hey, Chair, sorry, one last. And I'm very much sorry about. When you started, Chair, you indicated that at least in the presentations, we must get the understanding, because we do have independent schools that do not have SGBs in the main. At least the presentations must also guide us as to how is the department dealing with the question of monitoring these independent schools that do not have the SGBs. And I think I missed it. I did not hear anything in line or with regard to that in any of the presentations that were given before us. Can we also get clarity on that one? Thank you very much, Chair.
Hey, Honorable Kwavana. Honorable Kwavana. Is Honorable Kwavana still in the meeting? Okay. I see Honorable Kwavana is still in the meeting, but I don't know what is the problem. Honorable Komani, did you have your hand up?
Yes, Chairperson.
Okay, you can continue.
Okay, ga go go leboge ngwana kgoši ke bo ko go Tamiši, ke Tamiši le ministera le motlatši wa gagwe ba rialo ba re le swara thipa ka bogaleng. Re a leboga bana ba kgoši maikarabelo a magolo le neetšo go ona. Ke se ke ka lebala DG le bamphato ba gagwe ka mo le bona ba ba tlile go le di-presentation tše ba re beetše go tšona fa. Ke moka ke go leboga. Pele ke tlo tsena ditabeng modulasetulo, ke kgopela gore ke tše šedi yaka ke ile bantšhe le Director General. Ke mo leboge go maitapišo wa gagwe a kile go a dira gore go kgone go visita dikolo.
Honorable Komani. Honorable members, is this just me or have we lost Honorable Komani?
Yes, we lost him, all of us, Chair, even me.
Honorable Komani?
It seems like we have lost him, but you'll come back.
Yeah, we've lost Honorable Komani. Honorable Kovana, are you back? Okay. Well, let's try because of time. I see we are running behind time. I have very few questions because I think members have comprehensively covered me. Firstly, with the department, I think perhaps in our communications of the meeting of today, we might have missed an opportunity to really give you an insight on what we are looking for. And as such, members are correct to say our expectation would have been a presentation that gives us what the survey that was done has done. To say out of the 22,000 schools, public schools, this is the number of schools that have functional SGBs. And you outline what functionality means.
Chairperson.
Functional meaning, Honorable Commander, you back?
I'm back, ma'am. I was just found late that I'm out. I apologize for this. Is just a technical stuff.
Okay, let me allow you, but please.
No, I
let's
have
try
already
to
heard that the
stop
time
here.
is eaten by the red.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're the last speakers, so obviously we are disadvantaged ourselves.
Okay,
Okay,
no,
let me
it's
allow you
correct.
to finish your points.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was still complimenting the DG on what he did, and then so we propose that we get the report of all what we have a rover around for, and then when we get to the deal of the day with the different presentations, my concern is on the point of Department of Basic Education. I'm sure everybody, when we are seated here, we are aware that some of us, we are the product of the so-called illiterate SGBs of that time, but they managed to bring up yourselves seated here. Then, so I think what is needed is to understand the thing SGB in with its consistencies. That when we talk about SGB, we also include the very same teachers component that we have there, in which when we talk about training or capacitating them, we also include the very same principles that we have, because the problem is not only with the parents, the parent component. The problem is with them all. And on some other stage, the principal are abusing their powers at school when it's coming to SGBs. They take advantage of what we will call illiterate SGBs. And then they don't include them where they needed to sit down with them and then to take decisions. For an example, it is about a lot of time talking about the GJ Meiring School. The principal is abusing the power there. Even teachers are resigning from that school. And if you want to get to this matter properly to understand, just get the former SG members, get them together, because that school is losing teachers because of the arrogance of the principal at that school. And then now it is abusing the power of her position. The SGB is about to be collapsed. Maybe she want to bring her friends in as far as it's about to collapse the existing SGB. Then if it was the SGB wrong, I think if the department can intervene on that matter, they can see or understand what is the problem at GJ Meiring, because it's the issue that we brought in for the attention, but it's not happening. When I say some of the things, the principal themselves must be taken through a workshopping. We got a school in KwaZulu-Natal, Zululand, Ulundi sub-region, Ward number 23. The name of the primary school is Nkamelwana Primary School. Since that school have been blown by storms last year, May or June, till today, the school is without a roof. And just ask yourself, because there were children there who were attending in the school, in that block. Then so if the block can, only the block, the wall is there, is still good, there's no cracks, the only thing is the roof, that it should have been went through proper panels and then get another roof on the school. It's an immediate thing. It's an urgent thing that must be done. But that school is staying there without the roof. Then so my question is, what is the responsibility of the team working of the SGB if a school can stand for a full year with children whom have been supposed to be inside and they are not inside? We want to know, where are that children getting their education from? Because we can understand the Mobile classes that were there, they were there before this incident. And then so I'm amazed. I want to know Department of Education to just highlight me. If something like that happen, what is mostly have to be done or what is supposed to be done while they are still looking at that building, not repairing? Where do they take that children? To another school or send them home or they teach them under the tree? Let me not be so much as you requested me. I was having some, but let's respect your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Komani. As I was saying that perhaps we, in our communication to the department on the item or the topic of today, we were not as comprehensive, and as a result, we are missing out on the picture that we wanted to see. So the portfolio committee really wanted to get a comprehensive picture of the status of the school governance in the country. So we were expecting something like a presentation that gives us a breakdown of the number, out of the number of schools that we have, how many SGBs are functional and how many have completed training and how many times, which components of the training, not just a general presentation on whose responsibility it is to do this or that, or to do that or this. So I think we still need that information. And I think that's the major issue or the major questions that were raised in the meeting, that you would need to give us that information so that we've got a comprehensive view of how deep is the problem. One of the SGB's association representative was saying in this meeting, it is a mess. And that is what we want to get to a point of, is it a mess? And because we would have visited just a few number of schools, but we might not have a comprehensive view of the schools all around the country, so that we're able to then see how bad or how much of a mess it is and what are the plans in place by the national department and by the provincial departments on how to ensure that we capacitate the school governing bodies to ensure that the governance of the schools run smoothly. You see, the second issue is part of this information that we required was on the budget for SGB functioning. The budgets that is allocated by different provinces to different schools or to different districts. And that's something that we wanted to see. And of course, as well, under challenges, we would have loved to see how many SGBs, for example, with the current powers or maybe the previous powers, how many SGBs or how many schools where the PED had to intervene either through suspending the chairperson of the SGB or either through dissolving the SGB. And also speak to us about the challenges, because we don't need to only capacitate the SGBs, because remember the SGBs are parents component. They represent the parents component. And the reason why we say they represent the parents component is because they are elected by parents. So they don't choose. Saying that, no, people choose to be in the SGB because of they want to do this, they want to do that. It's parents who elect them. They go to a meeting, parents of learners of that school decide and they choose that we want Joy to represent us and be part of the school governing body. As a result, if we've got individuals that are elected by parents that have other ulterior motives to be elected or to be in the SGBs, then we need to capacitate. Firstly, the training then has to start with parents. Parents need to understand what is the role of these people that we're going, what is going to be the role of these people that we're going to elect, so that parents amongst themselves in that community, they amongst themselves, they can choose the best amongst them. So I think that is, so we would need to get to a bottom of, or you would need to also in your responses, because we're going to require this comprehensive presentation or comprehensive response from yourself also shared with us the challenges in terms of the elections of this SGP, because there is many SGP members that, of course, have been retained for many years, and the understanding is that they've received or they've garnered a lot of experience, and as a result, that experience should be assisting in terms of capacity or the ability of those members to really discharge their roles. So we needed to get to a bottom of what is budgeted in terms of the functionality of the SGP, in terms of attendance of meetings. Some of these parents are employed. How are these meetings called? Because in other instances, you would need to understand SGPs or parents component of the SGPs will tell you, well, meetings are called during the day and we are at work, you know? So we'd need to get to that, the practical manifestation of the day-to-day functions of the SGPs, which is a full component, of course, with teachers. And of course, we needed to hear from yourself as a department representing now the SMTs, which are part and parcel of the school, the full component, to say what are some of the challenges that they face as they deal with this part of the work. So I do think that we still need that information, because it will assist us to understand exactly how is the situation looking like. The issue of the PEDs and their role, it's noted that it is them actually who've got the responsibility to do the elections, but further to do the training, and not just the induction training, but continuous training based on the needs and we would want to hear from the PEDs if they've ever done any audit to say what are the exact needs. I mean, you'd need to understand in terms of this component of SGP members that are here, apart from the teacher component and the principal, in terms of the parent component, what kind of a capacity building do you need? Because one blanket fits all approach, it is not going to assist, because it's true, because it's parents component. Some of these parents really are not literate, but other parents have chosen them because they trust them, and they might be community builders, they might be community activists, and other parents believe that they are community activists. But however, the functioning of the school relies on different standard operating procedures, different legislation framework, different policies, school policies. Now, you can't expect a person who is not really capacitated to understand how to implement the schooling policies. So we really might need to get to a bottom of, do you conduct this audit? Do you know the character, the capacities of these SGPs that are elected by parents in this school, so that you are able to understand the type and the kind of training that is needed for that specific school. And of course, I agree as well that majority of this, of yourselves also as the school governing body associations, one of the school governing body, I went through your websites when I saw the presentations, and one of the association is very exclusive to be catering for English and Africans speaking people only, because those are the languages that they use, and it's clearly visible. So meaning that it is actually an association for a specific or targeted group. And then I think it was raised by Honorable Christians that then what is the role of that association in ensuring that there's transformation and there's a representation? Why specifically do you cater for that specific group? So that is, I was looking at also the numbers of the affiliated SGPs to these associations. One, the affiliation or caters for about 2,000 schools. The other is about 3,000 schools. The other one, I could not get the numbers. But that means the whole huge chunk of the schools, out of the 22,000 of the schools, we still can't get to hear their voice, because they are not organized into any association. They don't affiliate to any association. the schools that affiliate are plus minus 7,000 or 9,000 schools out of the 22,000 schools. So the huge, vast majority of the school governing bodies, we really don't know how do we get their voice? How are they organized to engage as stakeholders meaningfully with the department at the national level and do advocacy and also share with us the challenges of the school governing bodies? And of course, it is one thing to clearly just dismiss these challenges, but I agree with Honorable Shkwambane that we really need to do a full review of this system that we're utilizing of school governing bodies and say, in terms of these interventions that we're making through the Bella Act, the amendments of the Schools Act, especially with, and this, of course, these amendments were trying to bridge certain gaps. Are they going to assist the situation, or do we need just at an implementation level to really create different standard operating procedures or frameworks to ensure that, or strategies to ensure that there is more functionality and this school, especially of the historically disadvantaged communities, because I agree that's where the issue is. And of course, when you serve a small contingent of the schools as 2,000, it is easier to do training and comprehensive training. And of course, that is also based on the location and the communities of those schools, because there is SGPs that in terms of their own budgets, they've got serious money. But there are schools, your quintile 1 to quintile 3 schools, where they solemnly depend on funds that they receive from the provincial departments. And as a result, the challenges that were raised, and I think it's GPF that was speaking about also the allocation of the standards and norms to schools, which then impedes the functionality of the SGPs because they can't do anything. They don't have the money, they've not received the money. So we want to receive that comprehensive picture. The last aspect of the presentation, where you speak about the Bella Act and the new laws or the amended sections of the SASSA Act, which speak to the powers of the HOD in terms of the SGPs. Would want to hear from yourselves, because now you hear these are powers of the HOD, and these powers were enacted to ensure that there is better monitoring of the SGPs and to ensure that there is better efficiency in terms of the financial management of the funds that go to school. But how then do we ensure that those powers are balanced, so that we don't, how do we ensure that we don't just take away powers of the SGPs? We don't just dissolve an SGP. We don't just suspend a chairperson, because we need to balance those powers, even though this intervention is very much welcome, because we would want the department to be responsible for the smooth running of the schools. So these powers are welcome from where we are seated, but how do we balance these powers? And safe to say, as we close to the department, we've noted some utterances from the department, one from the minister, and I hope the minister is still in the meeting, that the Bella bill and the issue of the grade R admission is not possible. And we would want you to give us clarity exactly what do you mean, because the act is law. You can't tell us that it is not possible for us to implement law. You must tell us what do you mean exactly. So you don't want to implement the law, or because it's not possible, according to who? And this is utterances that were made by the minister on the grade R admission. But two, members in the last meeting raised an issue about some purported guidelines. And now we are seeing there is a lot of hullabaloo about guidelines from the department. The department must tell us exactly, have you issued guidelines, and what legislative framework gives you the powers to issue guidelines? Because we thought we were waiting for regulations. We thought in the meeting that we've scheduled, because we've scheduled a meeting, we thought that we were going to be engaging on the regulations. Now, what is the story about guidelines? Can you give us clarity? Do you have guidelines that you've issued? And what legislative framework do you have to issue guidelines? What are those guidelines meant for? And what has been, and I think these are questions that we've raised to you, we've sent to you also in written, and we thought by now we would have received the responses, because we would ask questions knowing exactly what we are asking. Because as you also refer to the Bella Act, I'm asking myself, because there is some purported guidelines, I'm wondering what are they even saying about this aspect where this role of the HODs towards SGPs. So you need to give us clarity, because really that is something that would have to have urgent engagement with yourselves on, based on the information that we have, that all stakeholders rejected such. We also said there is no need for guidelines. There is no legislative framework for guidelines. So we don't know, unless if those guidelines are really just an intention by the department to confuse the sector, but also to derail the finalization of the regulations, which we were promised that you'd have finalized them. And what our understanding was that we were going to engage on regulations. Now we're hearing stories about guidelines, and members raised that in the last meeting. We thought we would have received responses. We have not yet, but you need to give us clarity on that one. So I'm going to leave it there, but safe to say, to the SGP associations, you really need to reach out to the other schools that are mostly in the historically disadvantaged communities, because yes, you represent a sizable number of schools, but there is still a huge chunk of schools or SGPs from those schools who are not actually organized in any association. And as a result, it's very difficult for them to bring their voice, to advocate, and to speak as well about the challenges that they face at their level. So that will be all from me. I'm going to allow firstly the department to respond, and just give the associations as well just a few minutes to also respond. Majority of the questions were directed to the department. Minister, over to you.
Chair, yeah, Minister has gone to the safety signing, the safety protocol. So I am in this meeting, and we thank you for the comments and also the questions by members. And I believe that all questions were directed to both the department and also the SGP associations. I didn't greet them in the morning. Greetings to the SGP associations. Chair, allow me to give it to Mr. Ndlebe to facilitate the answering. I know that we are left with less than 45 minutes to do all this, but let them consider the time and facilitate the answering of questions. Please, colleagues, let's be precise and be short, and be, yeah, those that might need further information, we can promise that we'll be writing, but it's good that what the committee has done to check the governance of our schools, because we are not everywhere, but the SGPs are in all our schools, and they need support. They need to be capacitated, and by us. With your permission, Chair, can I allow Mr. Ndlebe to start and facilitate the answering if the DG is no longer in the meeting, but the DG was in the meeting earlier on. I didn't check for now. DG, oh, I can see you are in the meeting. Over to you, DG. That's it. If DG is unable, Mr. Ndlebe, can you please come in? Time is against us.
Thank you very much, DM, and thanks, Chairperson and members of the Portfolio Committee. We'd like to say we have noted the request from the Portfolio Committee on what we requested to provide in terms of numbers and the stats and the different programs that we supposed to send, and that we have noted. But few things that needs clarification. One of them is a request from Honorable Christian. She indicated that she'd love to know which schools are not utilizing their training funds. Maybe let's correct that. When I said there are funds that are not utilized, we're referring to SGB associations who then have to claim from the department monies related to affiliation. It's not funds that go to school and the school uses or doesn't use. So we will not be able to provide that information because schools are not given money for training. But we are encouraging SGB Association to utilize that clause in the norms and standard for funding to ensure that they then get funding for those affiliation. The trainings that happens in provinces normally happens in the language in which the training is taking place. If it is in the middle of Limpopo, in the villages, the training will not be in English. The trainers will always utilize the language that is used by members of the community. Chairperson, it cannot be correct that 80% of our schools are dysfunctional. Then it will mean there wouldn't be education and there wouldn't be schooling and there would be nothing that you are overseeing. So that is not even debatable. It can be that 80% of our schools are dysfunctional. There are challenges in SGBs which we are recognizing, but it really cannot be 80% of schools that are not functioning well. So those are few things that we wanted to look at. I'm not sure if Chairperson will allow us to respond to Honorable Shkwambani's question around disaster. We can quickly do that, or we can send in, whilst this meeting is continuing on the chat, a copy of what happened with the disaster, how many learners we lost, how many schools were affected, and how many learners were affected. And the names of the schools that were referred to, like Womatlari, we'll still use the very same process that we come back to you with GJ Mering, Bonka Melwane. We will look at that and we'll provide responses. And one other thing that we will not be able to give to Honorable Christian is whether FEDSAS has sent formal proposal to the department on the training, because that wouldn't come to us. If they would like to train, as we indicated, it's a provincial competence, the request will go directly to provincial departments. But Chairperson DM, the request, we are going to work with provinces immediately to work on the information that has been requested by honorable members. Thanks, DM.
Thank you, Mr. Ndlebe. Chair, I'm not sharing. We're responding. I was to allow other members of the SGP associations if they have anything to respond, but I can see that your meeting is continuing. Over to you, Chair.
Thanks. So the department is done responding, because then we will give...
No, Chairperson. Sorry, I just want to come in. I'm sorry I can't use my hand.
Okay.
This device doesn't allow me to. Chair, this is Simona Hugaya speaking. I just wanted to come in lastly to close after Mr. Ndlebe and to indicate to you that, like he said, a lot of what you have asked or what your expectations were on what you wanted us to package, we didn't quite package the presentation like that because we didn't quite understand that is what you're looking for. But this meeting has been very useful in providing us with the information that you're looking for. And some of it we do have. Other information we have to go and get from the provinces. But like Mr. Ndlebe said, we'll start with that immediately. Get the information and provide it to you. Come back at a later point to you with the details of some of what you have asked. Certainly, training is the prerogative of the province. We do the monitoring and the support, and it does indicate to us from what you are looking for that we need to ask the provinces to give further detailed breakdown to us when we are getting that information from them, so that we are at any given time able to provide that to you. And then lastly, Chairperson, I just wanted to indicate one of the honourable members asked around the Eastern Cape and the natural disaster that occurred there, and what information we had around that. So what we did as a department was that we established a committee that met with the 3 provinces that were affected by this disaster. The Eastern Cape was the worst affected, and we took detailed information and the reports from the provinces, the extent to which how many learners had been affected. So there were learners, there were fatalities that were experienced, especially in the Eastern Cape. The figure that we had in the Eastern Cape on the number of fatalities was, I think, by the close of where are we now? Of Thursday, last week Thursday, was around 27 learners. They were still looking for some 2 or 3 bodies, and the biggest fatalities was experienced in that accident of the taxi that crossed the road, the river, and got washed away. And then the impact of examinations was mainly experienced in Mpumalanga and in Eastern Cape. KZN has a circular out that helps them to monitor and manage the situation. So they didn't have very much of an impact on what happened with the learners. But certainly on the examinations, they had to sort that out. And so they have made other arrangements and are currently busy with that. And then the number of buildings, school buildings that were affected, in case they couldn't do that because of there were some strikes that also hampered them, but they are now getting information on that. And we have information on the extent of the damage in Mpumalanga and Eastern Cape. And we are working with either donors or with the departments itself. There's a National Disaster Fund that has been activated as well to assist us in terms of that. And then the last thing I just wanted to tell you, Chairperson, if you'd allow me, is that we did resend the responses through of last week's PC to you. It was sent through last night. And so we hope that you have received that through Mr. Brown. That's just to record that from our side, we have handed in the information from last week's PC. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Ms. Kier. So, DM, essentially the department is saying we must look at the responses on the issues of the Bella guidelines, because nobody touched on that.
Yes, Chair. I think we need to start with that one in the next meeting. But as a department, we must provide the information to the portfolio committee on the process. Where are we as far as not the guidelines, the regulations? I don't know anything about the guidelines, Chair, but we spoke here about the regulations that we must inform the portfolio committee as to how far are we in terms of coming up with it's a long time now. We promised that by June will be out. We'll check with the Office of the Minister and the department, of course. We'll submit that report to the chairperson. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable Mshkombane, let's allow, Honorable Mshkombane, if it's a follow-up, let's allow the SGPs to respond quickly, then you'll come for a follow-up. We'll give you an opportunity to do their follow-up before we close. The SGP associations.
Thank you, Chair. Jaco Deacon from FETSAS. May I proceed?
Yes, you can proceed, Jaco.
Again, thank you for the opportunity, Minister. I just want to confirm two things, or just point it out. Dr. Christian specifically asked a question about the provinces. I can confirm that we've submitted our proposals to all provinces who made an offer to train, and they're in possession of our training manual, the induction, to say that's the basic principles that we do cover. And that was also given in person in most of the provincial consultative forum meetings as well. So I can confirm that, and none of the provinces then decided to make use of that. I disagree with Mr. Ndlebe from DBE about the subsidies paid over to the SGBs or to schools. Just 6 out of the 9 provinces do pay over, but that's a portion of membership fees. So we shouldn't confuse the membership fee part with the money that's paid over for training. No money is paid over for training. That's a provincial budget. And I think that's some of the information that you need to get from the provinces to say, what's the budget and how are you utilizing that budget and the topics that you do cover. Regarding equality and inclusion, I think I already referred to the fact that we provide our training material in 12 languages, including the sign language and the Braille version as well. But to promote equality and inclusion is to really emphasize the importance of public schooling, where your public school is an asset of that community. And if your SG members are elected from a specific section of that community and you lack diversity and inclusivity, it's for a good governing body to realize that we need to co-opt, or we need to have those voices in our committees to really fully serve that full school community and not a portion of that community. But that's part of our governance training. And if you look at the good principles of governance, that's in any case how a good governing body should approach, because they serve that full school community. And then lastly, on parental oversight, the question asked by Ms. Jordan is the SGB must have AGMs, report back on finances, on our school development program, but they should also report back on the development of the SGB and how they attended the training sessions as well, to report back to their school communities. So I think it's also important to note that I think SGBs are totally underfunded, and I think that's part of the reason why most schools are not yet members of SGB associations, is that we don't get funding. Schools need to pay their membership fees, and sometimes they really struggle to pay the basics. The fact that they cannot utilize the national norms and standards funding from that means they need to do fundraising to be members of SGB associations. So we should do much more to help and equip school communities and SGBs to be members. Thank you, Chair.
Well,
Chair.
thank you. Yes.
Matakane, yeah.
Yes.
In addition to what you have said earlier on, Chair, that in the next meeting, the department must provide all the issues that you have raised. I want to add, according to South African Schools Act, number 84 of 1996, as amended now, section 23, membership of governing body of ordinary public schools. When you read section 1, subsection, and section 2, no, I'm sorry, section 2, subsection D, then it talks about learners in the 8th grade or higher at the school. And I'm asking you, Chair, so that they must provide that information as well. We are training, as we started training school governing bodies in 5 provinces in this country: Western Cape, Eastern Cape, KZN, Limpopo, and Gauteng. School children, learners are not there. So it therefore means in South Africa, there is no school governing body in high school, in schools that have got grade 8. So the school governing body in high school is made up of 5 components. The principals do not see themselves as governing bodies. They call themselves what they call this word that they use, that they are accounting officers and what, I don't know what that means. Teachers are not there. They don't see themselves as school governing bodies. We call school governing bodies, we expect teachers to be there, we expect learners in the higher grade to be there, we expect principals to be there, we expect parents to be there, because that is a school. So I'm therefore saying, let the department once again provide. Because what we see is the prefect, and they're still continuing conducting themselves in those schools as the previous government, because they're doing a prefect system instead of RCL in those schools, and they must Departmental that to assure us that yes, that is a legitimate school government. So I'm saying to you, I'm challenging them. There's no in all high schools where there is standard 8, there's grade 8. There is no school governing body in the whole country. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Manaha. And is there any other responses from GPF?
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's Dr. Peter Mansi here in replacing Dr. Seresto, who earlier indicated that she needed to leave. Chair, thank you for the opportunity. I'd like to make a comment regarding the clarity that exists and the commonality that exists in the participating governing body organizations today, and that is that there clearly is consensus and a very clear indication that the SGB organizations are more than willing to assist the DBE, and specifically at provincial levels in training. Mr. Deacon made it very clear, I think, in his presentation that the proposals have been presented, and the GBF likewise has made written proposals at provincial levels to indicate that we are more than willing to assist in training. I really hope that that is taken note of today, and that kind of dialogue can be extended to create some kind of more meaningful cooperative partnership in terms of training, not only of school governing bodies, but as mentioned by the Honourable Maimela, in terms of the training of the electorate, the training of the parents and the educators, and that might even alleviate the effects of political and union interference in the SGB membership. I think that the cooperative partnerships are absolutely critical. I think that the roles of SGB organizations are equally critical, and I really do hope that the proposals are taken to heart, because all of us, I think, really are focusing on the best interest of our children. There was mention made earlier of independent schools. Independent schools have their own association. They were not invited to this meeting as far as I can see. So we are, as the GBF, we represent in the main public schooling, rather independent schools, although we do have a couple of members. So I can't talk on their behalf. And that's, I think, is all that I need to say right now. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Mansa. Honorable Shkombana.
Thank you very much, Chair. You see, Chair, we're not playing here. We come here, we ask questions, and we don't get answers of our questions. Why are we requested to ask questions if people before us and officials and those who are doing presentations here and the department as well cannot give us our answers? I don't understand. Why do we constantly have to have a minister who comes 2 minutes and leave the meeting and we pose questions here? And it seems like no one from the people who are left from the department in the meeting can give us or provide us with answers. Because we have asked critical issues here and our answers are not, our questions are not answered. And no one even tries to touch on them to say on this issue we'll make follow up or what. They just keep quiet as if that issue was not raised. I raised the issue with regard to the invitation that was made to the publishers. And this question was directed to the department. The department said nothing about it. They just kept quiet and no one is willing to even touch on the matter. So why are we being asked to ask questions here if we can't get answers? Why does the department come here unprepared? And also the people who come here giving presentations, also they are giving us standard answers. We can't continue like this. The minister also must know, the department must know that when we ask questions, we must be provided with answers. And where you are not able to provide detailed answers, you must be able to tell us, I'm not in the position to provide detailed answers on this question, but rather I will do it in writing. Then we move. We are being disrespected here. And it's actually it's becoming annoying now. We can't continue like this, Chair. We've been quiet for long now. We can't. It can't happen. We need answers. Can I get answers in the questions of the publishers? The invitation that was made, and one of the people who happened to also apply for that, he was in the communication with the officials of the department, and that person was given an information prior that makes him advantageous to the other publishers, and the process becomes unfair. Can we get answers on that, please?
Okay, Honorable Shkwambana, in respect of time, is the department?
We are ready.
Can the
to answer
department
questions.
respond to that specific question? Because yes, it was not responded to.
No, we are prepared. We are prepared to answer all questions. The issue about the development of the catalog, we appointed an investigation firm to deal with the allegations. The report is available for us to share it with you and even share with Honorable Shikwambana. The allegations that were made were found to be completely unfounded. The information that was said to have been given to a certain company was given to all companies. In fact, it was even given during the briefing. So that report is available, Chair, to save your time. And other information, I assume that like breaking down the data of functionality of SGBs and others, the indication was that we could forward that information to your committee. So we did not respond to questions simply because we don't want to respond to them. The information that we don't have, the one that was not even contained in the presentation, we have undertaken to provide it as we always do within 7 days. And the issue of the functionality of SGBs, which is the last point, must be seen in the context of where we come from. I'm sure we can even do a comparison of, a few years ago, where were we as a department in terms of the functionality of SGBs. For instance, the improvement in the grade 12 results. SGB members contribute a lot towards those improvements. There are incidents of corruption, and in fact, we can get that data and provide it to you as well because it's not available now. But the majority of our schools are running very well. The school governing bodies are functional. And I'm giving you an example of the grade 12 results. Who improves those results? School governing bodies are holding school management teams, school principals, teachers accountable. And when I visit schools, I find them in camps working with teachers, providing in addition to the security personnel that is there, parents themselves being there to ensure that learners are disciplined. There are schools where there are incidents of ill discipline, but overall, our system has improved in terms of the functionality of school governing bodies. So, Chair, if there's any question that we have not responded in full, as we always do, Honorable Chair, we'll provide detailed information within 7 days. So I've explained the issue of the catalog and shooter. The report is available. We are ready to share it with you whenever you require and even come and present it to you, just to demonstrate that the allegations are completely unfounded. Thank you.
Thanks, DG.
Chairperson,
I think,
but you did not
wait,
talk about
DM. Wait,
the
DM.
contractual requirements.
I don't know who's speaking now. Somebody's mic is on. Wait, DM. There are two things. Honorable Skwambana was concerned about a question which he was specific to, which was not touched, and that was correct. In the responses, the question of the printers and what was not responded to. So that was correct to be a follow-up question. The other issues, honorable members, I did say as I made my comments that perhaps in terms of our own communication to the department, we were not clear enough, because what we said to them, and I was looking at our own program and our own items, what exactly did we specify? We said we're going to engage on functionality of SGBs, but perhaps we were not comprehensive enough that we want the department to come and give us the status of of the functionality of SGBs, which we've done before. I think we've had a conversation about the status of infrastructure, of schooling infrastructure. And we were clear about exactly what is it that we require the department to report. So that is specific. And my understanding from where I'm standing, and I'm pleading with honorable members, is that there are certain, for example, when we say give us a breakdown, that might require the department to really engage with the provinces and give us accurate information. I wouldn't want the department to say at least 60% of the SGPs are functional, and we find that that is not accurate. We give you that responsibility and that opportunity so that you give us accurate information. So that when we receive these written responses, we can decide still as a committee to say we need a follow-up meeting based on these responses that we've received. So on the matter of the printers, DG, do send that comprehensive information. But the frustration of Honorable Shikwambana was that it was not touched, it was not responded to, and that was correct. But on the other issues, as I have mentioned, because some of the questions were very specific, they were specific to names of schools. They were specific to certain incidences. And we want you to go and investigate and bring us and report to us through written responses with accurate information. So I want to plead that we leave it at that, including that one of the printers, that please send that comprehensive report for all our benefit, because the matter has been raised in this meeting. So all of us now want to know what are the allegations all about and what has been the outcomes of the investigation process. Lastly, on the guidelines, because the department says, and this is the DM saying, yes, on we will deal with, we're finalizing the regulations and all. There is an issue of guidelines. And in your responses, because I'm only seeing the responses now, I guess Ms. Gea says you've submitted last night. So we've only seen them now, and they are very long, so we'd have to go through them. But in your own document, you are saying that, yes, you've developed guidelines. And this is, I'm quoting what the responses are saying, is that you've developed guidelines because non-binding guidelines, because the sector required the guidelines. Now, I do hope that perhaps let's look at our program and find time, because we don't have time now. for the department to tell us more about these guidelines that are known only to the Office of the Minister, because here it says the Office of the Minister on your responses. And we thought that it is a department issue, this issue of guidelines, that the sector required some explanation. We don't know what explanation you are referring to, because we told you that there is no one from who was standing who said they need explanation. Seemingly you just, and where I'm standing and where I'm seated, these guidelines are really just an Helen Zille issue, because it is only Helen Zille in the public domain who said she wants, we are going to do guidelines. It's only the only person that I can think of who spoke about guidelines, not any other stakeholder. I've never heard the union saying we need. So when it is said in your responses that the sector needed some clarification, and this is common practice, you're going to have to tell us common practice according to which law, and you quote us that law that you are referring to. So I because we don't have time, I want to really plead with yourselves that let's send you, and to plead with members as well, because I want to release the department so that we engage on that amended program where we're going to be engaging on the Bella before we close this term. We do hope that DM and the DG and the department, you are ready to really give us responses on these guidelines that stakeholders in the department have written statements. We've seen statements of the stakeholders in the departments who are rejecting guidelines. And we're confused, what guidelines now? Because we are speaking about regulations and we're still really waiting for the department to brief us on this regulation. So now we're seeing some other things that we don't know. So we do hope that when we do have that meeting, you will be ready. So I'm just raising this so that I prepare yourselves, TM and DG and the minister in absentia, that when you do come, we hope that you are able to give us responses. We are going to make a request to the Office of the House Chair that meeting that we will have, we actually extend it to the full day, because we would want the provinces, we would want all stakeholders that are affected by the implementation of the Act. And of course, we would want to hear the response of the Office of the Minister on the utterances that you are not ready as a department to implement the law of this country, which is the Bella Act. So I want to plead with honorable members, Honorable Shkwambane, Honorable Komane, I saw Honorable Law, I saw your hands were up. I want to plead with you that I fully agree with the sentiments that we do want answers when we ask questions. That on this one, let us allow the department to give us that breakdown, that comprehensive report, including the additions that were made by both the three SGP associations, Mr. Deacon, Mr. Manaha, and Dr. Peters, I think, also made additions on this information that you should send to the portfolio committee. And we agree with their sentiments that on top of what we've asked, make those additions and submit to us that information. We will definitely, if we see the need, we'll definitely call a meeting, a follow-up meeting, to discuss the very same matter based on that breakdown that you would have given us. With that said, honorable members, I really want to plead with you that we release the department and we deal with our outstanding issues, which is the revised program, which is just an addition of one item really, and we deal with the responses of because Mr. Brown did come back to me on the responses on that application we've made to do the special oversight visit, and we also deal with the minutes. DM, thank you very much, and perhaps we hope that next meeting we are better prepared to respond to members' questions.
Thank you, Chair. Your word is taken. We'll respond accordingly. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we are all released, including the SGP organizations. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We appreciate also your insight and your inputs.
Thank you, Chair, and goodbye.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair. Thank you all.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, in terms of our agenda, can we firstly, let's start by flighting the program. Can we start by flighting the program before we get to minutes? The amended program. Now, whilst you are still trying to flight the amended program, just to give an update, honorable members, that we are still in engagements with the House, with the Office of the House Chair. The last response that we got, and I just saw it now, from the Office of the House Chair, relating to our request, which we've already submitted, was the Office of the House Chair informing us and reminding us that the Parliament has not scheduled any oversight visits for this term, and that we need to have that engagement with the House Chair. I am trying to make an arrangement with the unit manager to try and have a meeting with the House Chair so that perhaps we can give context on this special one-day visit and try and also motivate why we need to undertake this one-day oversight visit even outside the program of Parliament for the term. So we'll give update after I meet with the House Chair on how that goes. But for now, we were just responded with a reminder that we are not allowed to that in terms of the program of this term, oversight visits are not scheduled. So that is the update. Honorable members, I think we just wanted to give you an indication of exactly how we've just really amended a little bit of the program, because today, as we all know, we're supposed to have received the budget and the APP of Faith and Umalusi, and as a result, they couldn't. The briefing by DP on SGB functionality was actually going to come the following week, and we just moved it up to this week. We've also really moved up this meeting. This is the joint meeting, which we cannot change. We cannot change this joint meeting because with both portfolio committees agreed on this date, and this meeting is long overdue. So we couldn't change this one. The next week, if you would remember very well, honorable members, our members are participating in the G20 working group. So we will not have the portfolio committee meeting. That stays. Now, this is where the changes have come. Now, on the 8th of July, we are then having the briefing by DPE on the status on the Bella Act update, regulations and implementation as it relates to grade R admission. Now, this item existed already in terms of our initial program, but it was only on the update on the Bella Act regulations. Now, we've included now the implementation, not only the regulations, but the implementation of the Act based on the inquiries of members over the past meetings on how far is the implementation. We've included that part. As a result, we will invite the 9 PEDs. We will also invite other stakeholders that are impacted by the implementation of the Act. So we'll receive here the status update on the regulations and also on the implementation of the Act. Now, that is the inclusion. The inclusion is just to add on the item that was already on the program. If you go up, Mr. Brown. So this is now the addition to the program, to our program. Initially, we had said that we were going to receive a provincial education, briefing by provincial departments on their strategic plan and their annual performance plans, and also the HSA recommendations and planning alignment. Initially, we had only scheduled 3 PEDs in terms of our program. But because we had an opening of 1 day, we've now then added 3 provinces. So we'll have on the 15th of July, we'll deal with the first 3 PEDs. Now on the 22nd of July, we'll then deal with the other PEDs. So this is the addition. The addition is really the addition of the briefing by the 3 other provinces, whereas initially we could only do 3 provinces. Now we thought, okay, because we've got 1 day opening, let us add the other 3 provinces. That is the update that we wanted to give to members, and I want to get comments from members on this update so that we can submit the amended program. Members, I'm taking hands for any comments on the amendment. Okay, meaning we are all in agreement with the amendments, because I'm not seeing any hand.
My hand was up, Chair.
Oh, it was up. Okay, Honorable Shkamba.
No, thanks, Chair. I think from my side, I'm in a full agreement with the amendments and the changes that were made with regard to the program. Therefore, I move for the adoption of this program with its amendment.
Okay, noted. Any other?
Chair, even my hand was up, long-time participant. Chair, I'm supporting the adoption from Honorable Sekwambala. Thank you.
That will be our program, just to give you perhaps an indication that the meeting with our next meeting, the joint meeting, is virtual. Or is it physical, Mr. Brown? Let me not make a mistake. Is it physical?
No, Chairperson, that meeting on Friday the 4th will be virtual. It'll start at 1 o'clock due to the plenary in the morning.
Okay, yes, it's virtual. Now, the next meeting being the 8th, Mr. Brown, can we go down? Yes, the next meeting of the 8th will be physical. We are going to try and make an application for the whole day meeting, because it's going to be quite a big meeting, a full day meeting based on what is happening, if we've got mini plenaries, but we'll have to see. And I think we might have mini plenaries, but we'll have to see, and we'll speak to the House Chair on how do we manage that situation. It is likely to be physical, members. If it is not possible to be physical, we'll then communicate with yourselves. Mr. Brown, in terms of our agenda, what is next?
Chairperson, we just have one set of minutes of last week, the 17th. I'll just put that up now.
Can we fly to those minutes? Okay, honorable members, I'm sure you've received this set of minutes. These are minutes of the last meeting that we had, where we were receiving a budget review by DPE and a report on anti-bullying. Safe to say, honorable members, we have received the responses from the department, quite comprehensive. I would really urge members to go through those responses, because when we do also request written responses, we need to go through those responses so that we're able to action some actions. Members ought to advise based on those responses if we do need a follow-up meeting, especially with comprehensive reports from PEDs on the disasters that have taken place. I saw there is one of the Mpumalanga and Eastern Cape and KZN as well, but also just comprehensive responses from the DPE on the anti-bullying and some of the questions we've asked on the budget issues. Given that, honorable members, are there any corrections and any amendments that are proposed on the minutes? Yes.
To go through all of the minutes, I think I need to for the adoption because I'm quite concerned.
Honorable Law moves for the adoption. Any seconder to the minutes?
I second the chair.
Honorable Mugati seconds the adoption of the minutes. The minutes are adopted. That was the last item on the agenda, honorable members. Thank you very much for your patience. The meeting is adjourned and we'll see each other on the 8th. Thank you very much.